And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, fuck him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time, and of course 5:05 on the Pacific Coast. Good morning, bright and early. Got a good segment for you today. Of course, it's a Friday roundtable. But before we get into the roundtable, I just wanted to just cover a couple of things. First of all, I want to say I'm overwhelmed and I'm blown away by the amount of money that has been raised to help my family right now in these trying times. But with that being said, I just want to say I am so impressed. I have spoke to a couple people out there who've donated. I've been trying to call each individual person, and if I haven't called yet, I apologize. I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you. My phone hasn't stopped. I'm trying to get through them. There's just so many names. I want to thank all the people that have donated. It's unbelievable. But with that being said, I have spoke to a couple people out there that I know they're hurting themselves. They're going through conflict. Conflict in their own lives. So please, and I told some of these people, if you're hurting in your own life and you have issues going on, don't put yourself through more pain to help me, please. That's not what I want out of this. So I have told a couple of people that have donated money. I'll put their money to the side. And if they need it back. They have a little savings fund because I don't want to put anyone else through pain to help me. I mean, it's so kind. I appreciate it. It's been a year of pain, so everyone masks pain or dulls pain in different ways. Some people turn to some negative stuff. For me, it's purpose. It's doing the podcast and connecting with you fine people and doing jujitsu and working on my RV. That's how I dull pain, by being task oriented. So there's one thing I really, I was talking about this with John offline yesterday, that I really identified with what's happening right now. And I spoke to Tom Joyce. Good morning, by the way. I had a great conversation with Tom Joyce. He called me. Many people have called me, but I had a great conversation. And Tom said, "Hey, why didn't you reach out earlier? Some people they're upset because they really wanted to help you. And when people are good, and shows how good. This is not just the policing culture. I mean, I've had so many people, friends I have that are part of the police community, friends that are not from the police community, help out. People from my wife that she hasn't seen in years, and I'm so appreciative. But what I realized, and Tom said, "Why didn't you reach out earlier?" And I said, "You know what? I'm public person. I'm doing the podcast, things like that. But when it comes to my family, I'm kind of private. I wanted to protect Derek. But I also said, and this is true, why would I have reached out to the police community when I was also ostracized by the police department?" And honestly, that's how I felt. And my point to this is, if there's anything I could ask for, it's more than money. And of course, saving Derek's life is change the police culture. And that's what I asked for. Because it's amazing how we come together and help in such times of need. But it's unfortunate we come together in times of death, in times of near death. This is when we come together. And that's why I say we need to change the policing culture, because we talk about mental health all the time. And I realized I haven't slept in days because I'm just overwhelmed with the kindness people have reached out. And I said, you know what? I've been laying in my bed. I haven't slept. I haven't slept good in a year, but that's not the point. But these past couple of days, I said to myself, what's wrong with our mental health program in the NYPD and other policing culture throughout the country? It's us. That's the problem. We need to change the culture and help each other on a daily basis. Some people have conflicts big, and some people have conflicts that are small. But any conflict needs to be addressed. And I said, why would I have reached out and asked for help? Shortly before my son was diagnosed, I was getting death threats to my kids. And so was John. We were getting death threats from a fake moniker that was an actual member of the service. And I can't even say that the vile things people have said to me by saying, look, there's a cop out there threatening the lives of my kid and John and stalking and taunting us. And people said, you guys are crazy. And they turned their back on us. So why would I have reached out to the police community? Why is it different now? There's people that they wanted the death of my children, but why is it different now? So my point to this is, I am so appreciative, and I can't thank everyone enough, but we need to change the policing culture and help each other, not just in death, not just in times like this, but we need to help each other on a daily basis. That is better than any mental health program. It's the inner linings of the police department, the internal pressures. It's the police culture. We need to help each other. And I'm sorry to go off on that rant, but that's where I think we need to change. John, what do you think?
Nah, it's not a rant, and I think it needs to be talked about. A lot of people, while we've been doing this, have been reaching out to me. Mental health experts, law enforcement coaches. It's almost like once or twice a week at this point. People are reaching out. Oh, I love what you and Eric are doing, but you guys need to tone it down. And I'm like, you're coming to me to ask me to platform you, and you want us to tone down what we're saying. And I personally don't think that we're brash at all. I think that me and Eric are nice guys. I think, we talk about things. We ask questions about things. We give an opportunity to everybody to tell their side of things. We don't try to corner people. So I'm like, tone it down. And I'm like, do you know why? And I always the same conversation with me. I'm like, do you know why the men and women in the NYPD listen to us? And they're like, no, why? I was like, okay, I'll tell you why. I was like, because when you get a guy that was transferred, and he was transferred from like the Bronx, and he lives all the way upstate, but he works in the Bronx, and now he works in Staten Island because he didn't salute Kaz Daughtry quick enough. And we come on the podcast and we say, Kaz Daughtry is a jerk off, right? Could we help change the guy and get him back to the Bronx? Maybe because we get enough reach that maybe it becomes a story and maybe that guy gets transferred back. Maybe. But most likely not. Most likely not. But that guy or that girl that got transferred, because there was some idiot who wanted to show who the hell they were, they heard somebody talk about their situation, and they know that they're not crazy. There's people out there that care, and that, in fact, Kaz Daughtry is a jerk-off, right? And I was like, and that has done so much to improve mental health, because what you want to do is you want to come on here and say, we're always here for you. You could call me all night long. You could do this. You could do that. But let's not talk about Kaz Daughtry and why he transferred you. Let's not talk about why Eric Dim was forced out of the police department. Let's not talk about why Sal Greco was terminated. Let's not talk about why Marlon Bethel was talking. But, and by the way, we're not here for you, Sal, or Marlon, because you guys got terminated, so you guys are no longer part of this family. So we're not here for you either, But don't worry, if you guys commit suicide, then there'll be a ceremony for you, and then they'll honor you in death and all this other bullshit. And so I laugh, and I'm like, I think that we're doing a lot for the mental health of officers in the NYPD. I think we're doing a lot for mental health in society as a whole, because you turn on the news and you're not hearing anything about what's happening. You're getting put into this window, and you're like, wait a minute, what about this? What about this? What about that? What about this? And so, like, having a conversation and being able to talk. What does it mean? I'm always here to talk to you, Eric. I'm always here for you. Oh, I don't want to talk about you, CCOs. Oh, I'm going through this with my son. I don't really want to talk about that either. I'm always here for you. I'm always here for you. And I know, I think it's very important. I think you nailed it home, and I think we've been saying it a lot, and I think we've been saying it about cops. We've been saying that cops' lives are honored in death, not in life. And then when you really deep down dive into it and you look at it, all of us as humans are honored in death, but not in life. And so we have valid arguments. All of our voices matter. Ron Layson had sent me this wooden plaque, right? This wooden plaque with the podcast, and it says, "Your perspective matters." And I don't think he meant that my perspective matters. All of our perspective matters. Yours does. I could be dead wrong about what I'm saying, but why can't I let it out? Why can't I vent it out? Why can't I talk about it? Why can't we talk about what happened and what's going on? And the culture in the NYPD is shh. Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. So I don't blame you, and I understand it. And we get a lot of online hate. There's still a lot of hate. I know. That's why, if you guys think I'm rude, if I don't respond in comments of stuff, I can't look at the stuff. It annoys me because I'm like, here you are online with a fake name talking smack to me. If you said that to my face, I'd punch you right in your face. I'd go to jail that night. And I can't. And then I'm not gonna. I purposely did not look at Paul Manicone's post, which got about 2 million views, because I could only imagine what the things that are written in there. And I won't bring myself there to go back and forth with some coward who hides behind a fake name. You know what I mean? We all, I think Mike Tyson said it. People forgot that they could get punched in the face and slapped in the face. That's what online has done. It opened up this world to everybody. And we're not real people, and I think that's the thing. Like me and Eric and Sal and Marlon, we are who we are. Like, we're flawed. We're not perfect. We're not right about things. We have bad takes sometimes. We have good takes sometimes. But we are who we are. If you run into us in the street, hey, how you doing? It's like we're not different people. We're not playing a game here. So yeah, So I just Sal, what do you think about what Eric's saying?
Well, I want to say good morning to all, first of all. Even the haters, as usual, the faceless people that like to call me buffoon and stuff, and probably were at the bar last night like they were for 30 years on the job every night. So, this is what I'm going to say. This resonates with me directly. And, I'm sorry if I haven't called Eric during the week, because I know I'm sure you've been overwhelmed. But for people who don't know, Eric's son has the same disease that killed my father. My father got sick. He was diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is exactly what Eric's son has. And within 6 weeks, he went from somebody who looked just like us four to, I didn't even want to say what he looked like on the final day. But on the final day, I went to see my father. And my father, who died in front of me, I got chased by Jeremy Orenstein's goons in internal affairs. There was never any closure. There was never any cop that came up to me. How are you? How can you deal with this? I'm under an investigation for nonsense because I'm no insurrectionist. I've never been to the Capitol. It didn't matter. I was a target and they made me a political target. And that's all that mattered. There was nobody there for me. And I'm telling you, I went home at times and, the walls were caving in on me. It was dark and there was no one to call. Because, in that culture, you're not allowed to say anything because that makes you weak. That shows weakness. But, there's a lot of thoughts that went through my head. My father is still in the urn. There was never a funeral. There's people today that still think he's alive. All right. And because there was never any way to speak about things because of what was going on. So I relate with Eric. And I know this, whatever you think you're giving him, and it's good that you're sending money to Eric, but trust me, he's already exhausted anything he's owned. And there's going to be even more for this because this isn't like we have insurance and you go and no. This cost millions. I know one person that I believe the daughter is the one person that beat this in America. And it's because they had to have surgery. So they had to shrink the glioblastoma into the smallest possible little tumor and then actually cut her brain and get this out. They were told that afterwards she might live only a few years. She's still alive today, knock on wood, like 20, 30 years later. So she's beat the odds. But she was young. She was a little older, though, than Eric's son. So there's always that chance. But it took a lot of money personally from their family to fund this. So just so you understand, it's going to take a lot, probably in the millions, to prolong this to see how we could fix this. When this was all said and done, eventually, when I'm done fighting this moron mayor who should be in jail and his cronies, I would want to open up a foundation for this under my father's name, who died at 76. He had no shot because once you get stage 4, you're pretty much done, especially at that age. And this is something that it's always inside of me and bother me if I don't say much about it. But, to watch somebody, a great man or a great person, fall from this disease, and you can't even talk about you're not allowed to say anything. Plus, you're fighting your own battle, your own survival. You're trying to save your name because they're accusing you of things that you didn't even do. And then I got to watch the very reason I get terminated for is now buddying up to the criminal who got rid of me for this reason. It's a lot, but I'm still here. And I fight not only for me, but really for everyone. Like last night I was in a space talking about this Epstein file thing. And I know there's people spinning the conspiracies. It's too much, but to go back to this, I feel for Eric, and I hope everyone else does, because trust me, no matter what you think of us or Eric, no one deserves to have, especially a young child, to have glioblastoma, and he didn't even do anything. Got to understand, he's a young kid. He was a perfect kid in perfect health. And, it's funny because today I have an episode coming up where I spoke to Peter D. McKelly of Protect Our Children, and we kind of talk about this kind of stuff. And we got to protect our young. So, and I gave what I could to Eric, whatever I have, no matter what I'm doing, I gave, because I know the battles that Eric is going to face. So for everyone out there, though, that thinks, oh, you got all the support no, it really doesn't. Because John's right. Because the minute you speak, you're weak. And people think, oh, yeah, man, that guy Eric Dim, man, he see what it is. If he starts talking, that's what they're going to do. If you were on the job, it's that way. And you notice, like John was saying, when they tell you, oh, I'm here for you. But if you say something, all of a sudden, yeah, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. But they're really not. It's just the empty saying. So usually I say you have a close-knit group. It's not going to be 35,000 people. It's going to be a close-knit group. And you're kind of looking at that today, which is like us 4, plus Ron and Rob. There's others. Ron and Rob's in the chat. They come on. They have their own show too. So we're just giving our perspective and off of fact-based analysis. But if you do take the time to be a human, just remember there's bigger things on the horizon. So this thing that Eric's son is battling, it's serious. And hopefully he could get through this. And, Eric, I'm praying for your son. I'm in your corner. And, whatever you do need, whatever I have, I love to help, because we have that connection that I know what it takes, because I was there. And I hate to see this happen, because it's very hard to see somebody falling to this and there's nothing you could do. And it could also happen just like that. So people that think like, oh, he's okay. In 6 weeks, remember, someone that looks like us could be done in 6 weeks from this. So,
all right. So Marlon, let's start to move on. What do you got with that? Marlon, you're muted, dude.
Yeah. Good morning, chat. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I've been having some internet issues. I changed the setup and everything was working fine until we started streaming, and then the computer went down. So now I have to use the iPad. But anyway, it's my hope that with RFK now being dead, that we can finally get past cancer, and this government can focus on the health of its people. I'll keep it short, but it's funny how a lot of times we're thinking the same things, because last night I made some comments on Twitter, and the reason why I made them is because I'm angry at people's self-censorship. I'm angry at us not being able to talk about certain things, because if we can't talk about certain things, we can't get past them. And it's time. We're in a new century, and we need to get past these problems in America in order to progress. And I think it's time that we call them out in public and start talking about it in public and stop with the self-censorship. So let's begin the discussion, and I hope everyone's having a good day so far.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about broken windows policing. The media is painting it as there is a return to broken windows, as Jessica Tish is now the great police commissioner that we always needed, even though the majority of Eric Adams' cronies, people who have had their phones taken, who are ensnared in federal investigations, who have numerous lawsuits against them, who have really horrible, hard careers.
John, the security clearances where they got pulled. All these guys have
Nobody has a security clearance. That's a great point. So, basically Eric Adams is the pilot. Don't hope for the plane to crash, but, don't worry that he's handcuffed, he's blindfolded, and he has earmuffs on. He can't hear nothing. So he's the pilot. Before we get into Jessica Tish, we got a video of her speaking at an event where she starts to highlight this. The Post has been writing article after article after article about Jessica Tish. So has most of the New York media. She should be the mayor. She's great. She saved the police department. Crime's down because of her. Crime is down this year, 100%. It has a lot to do with the Trump administration. It has very little to do. There's absolutely nothing that she enacted that's different than any of the other 3 police commissioners. There is stuff that she has plans on doing. Before we listen to her, Eric, your opinion, should broken windows return? More importantly, in the environment we're in right now, could broken windows return?
Those are great questions, by the way. That's a great question because there's a complete dichotomy between the both. Should it return? Absolutely. In a perfect world, yes. Can it return? No. Unfortunately, no. And they call it broken windows, but I refer to it as intrusive police work. And I think that intrusive police work is the foundation of public safety. And the proof is in the pudding. You look at the 90s, you look at the Comstat era, and really what the Comstat era is accountability while monitoring intrusive police work. And that's what the police were doing for the NYPD. They started to engage the public. Before that, it was much more reactive. There was even a period under David Dinkins where the police started to do intelligence reports and not actually do intrusive police work and report and make notifications within the police department about intelligence and information gathered based on narcotics. But having the entire police department being intrusive, and when I say intrusive, it's intrusive police work, that means engaging the public. Even just on the low-level engagements, which refers to legislation that we've had with the New York City Council that has handicapped the police to actually conduct intrusive police work under broken windows, which is the How Many Stops Act, right? Every police officer should be engaging the public. If you're directing traffic, you should be engaging people, giving them directions, engaging the old lady walking across the street. If you're working in a violent area where we've had robberies and shootings, you should be engaging the public and detaining and stopping people and questioning them based on the common law right of inquiry. You should be also engaging people on probable cause to make arrest. So, to your answer to your question, John, absolutely, broken windows should be implemented, but with this legislation, the handicaps and this inadequate upper management of the police department with lack of support for the cops that are out there that are going to conduct it, it's not possible to do it in an effective manner. We have civil litigation that our cops have to be wary of. We have a DA's office. Let's not even just say a DA's office. We have 5 borough DAs that at any moment notice will look to persecute and prosecute our cops for doing intrusive police work. And we have an overzealous CCRB. So in that recipe of disaster, our cops are getting thrown into that stew and they're getting burnt alive. It's unfortunate, but the cops get snagged in this and there's no support. So in order for it to be effective, we need a support system. Even with the legislation, as teared down as it is and ripped apart and created numerous handicaps for law enforcement personnel from the NYPD in particular, in order to conduct intrusive police work, the support system has to come from the upper management.
I agree. Sal, what do you think? Broken windows, should it return? Could it return?
Yes and no, because it should return, but then you'd have to basically we came from the broken windows era, but then we were trained a certain way. You'd have to retrain every single human being in the police department because the broken windows being applied in 2025 versus the late 90s, early 2000s, early 2010s is completely different. So you'd have to retrain everyone, which would cost a lot of money. And then to implement it, the policies and the legislation do not favor you, because things can go wrong. And if they do go wrong, you're going to be suffering from it. So I would say no. What I would say is you got to do what's called precision policing, which means you have to get right to the point of what you're doing and be 100% correct. Because, here's the box. If you're a little bit outside of it, tag, you're it. You'll be sued. You could lose your job. You could go to prison. So precision policing, yes. Broken windows, not in 2025 in New York City. It won't work unless you're going to retrain them.
Well, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm not entirely sure it actually left. I mean, the cops who are actually active still do it, but I think what's changing is now the department's going to expect the enforcement again, and that goes back into the numbers discussion. But I'm not entirely sure it can work because we still need prosecution, and if the DAs aren't going to prosecute, then what's going to happen is just going to be the revolving door once again, and numbers for the sake of numbers. And I think that's probably why, as we'll get into the video, you'll see Jessica Tish actually call out the city's DAs. So I don't think that's coincidental that she's doing that now. I think she herself knows that without actual convictions, that you can arrest as many people as you want. You can summons as many people as you want, but ultimately that's not going to go anywhere.
Look at Rob Lukash he said I was right. And so look at Rob and Ron. They're saying the same thing. Can't be implemented.
I mean, well, I agree with Marlon a little bit. It is like they do utilize it where they want to, and I think they are going to push cops for numbers. So I think where we're headed in the New York City Police Department, especially under this propaganda machine that is New York City under the Adams regime, is you're going to see a huge push for numbers. And that's basically what it's going to be. And like you see it every day, right? We how many guns we got off the street, how many summonses we issued, how many arrests we made. Who are you arresting? Who are you summoning? What have those arrests led to convictions? Have those arrests or those summonses led to fines? And when you look at that, I think a lot of what you'll see is, yeah, it's easy to blame the DAs a lot of time, but then also you got to look at, did the DA do the right thing? Was that summons and was that arrest even warranted? So yeah, there's definitely this progressive spin in New York City, and I think what you'll see is when you watch this video, pay attention to the areas she's talking about. She's pretending that she found a new niche in broken windows, and she in fact did not. Crime zones are something that we've been utilizing in the NYPD since before any of us were cops. So, that's a whole spin and a whole media narrative. But, with a diminished police department, unlike in the past when myself, Eric, and the rest of us have been saying that broken windows was deployed regardless of the command you were in, regardless of the ethnic makeup, regardless of the crime level. This is how we policed throughout New York City. It was a systemic targeting of crime. It was a systemic targeting of crime and criminals, not of ethnic backgrounds or high crime neighborhoods. Obviously, in high crime neighborhoods, you saw more cops because you needed more cops to deploy broken windows. But I think going forward, what you're going to see in a diminished New York City Police Department is you're actually going to see Black and brown communities are going to feel the brunt of broken windows versus the other communities, and because they just don't have the manpower to deploy it. And so what they're going to do is they're going to deploy a ton of cops into these Black and brown communities. It's going to be numbers for numbers, and then it's going to pit the community against the NYPD even worse. So it's actually this is a doubling down on the failures. Not Rudy Giuliani, Mike Bloomberg, they improved New York so much through broken windows policing, but there were a lot of failures in broken windows. And instead of removing broken windows, what we should have did is fix broken windows and take out the failures of broken windows. But what we're doing now under Eric Adams, who hated broken windows police and couldn't stand it, what you're going to see now is not only are we going to return to broken windows, we're only returning to the failures of broken windows, not the positives. And it's going to actually make this anti-police rhetoric and this anti-police police media and all of this stuff, it's actually going to increase because they're doubling down on failure. They're not looking to improve. Let's listen to what Jessica Tish has to say. We'll stop it all early and often and get everybody's thoughts on this. But this is it's honestly it's when you're listening to it, just pay close attention to the things that she's saying.
Which is, of course, public safety. Business, education, housing, social services, cultural institutions, everything stands on a foundation of public safety. And that foundation is built by the women and men of the New York City Police Department. Their work is at the center of our city's future. In the first week of this year, I joined Mayor Adams at a press conference where we went over the crime data from 2024. In many respects, the news was good. Overall index crime was down, with more than 3,600 fewer incidents reported than the previous year. Murders were at a 5-year low. Both shooting incidents and shooting victims were down for the 3rd straight year citywide. And in Brooklyn, shootings were at their lowest level since CompStat began tracking them in the early 1990s. Major crime was down in our housing developments, and it was down in our transit system for the 2nd straight year. This was movement in the right direction, but we knew that we could and we must do more. There were still stubborn pockets of violence in the city, and there was a sense that people still didn't feel safe. So we wasted no time in building on and enhancing our efforts to further drive down crime. And that work is leading to a meaningful course correction. With just a few days left in the month, February will mark the 3rd straight month of double-digit declines in citywide index crime. After a 16% drop in December and a 17% drop in January. So far this year, overall major crime is down more than 15%, with significant reductions in 6 out of the 7 index categories. Crime is down across every city borough. It's down 12% in housing, and it's down 28% in our subways. Simply put, the crime reductions the women and men of the NYPD have delivered over the past quarter have been extraordinary. And if 2024 was a step in the right direction, then 2025 has so far been a leap forward. But why? How are we doing this? Well, it's not by accident or by circumstance or by doing more of the same. One way was to reimagine how the police department viewed and analyzed crime. And it went back to the greatest innovation in policing over the last century, CompStat. When CompStat was developed in the early 1990s, my mentor, Commissioner Bratton, was thinking about crime at the precinct level. But the average police precinct in New York City is quite large, and each one varies widely in size, in population, and land use. What was working in Midtown might not apply to Mott Haven. And 30 years ago, the data was less detailed and the process less defined. Now, though, with more powerful analytic tools and the capability for more sophisticated evaluation, we can be more precise than ever. And we can extend the transformation that CompStat began through the establishment of zones. The idea is to focus on much smaller geographical areas than precincts, specific street segments, portions of neighborhoods, even stretches of blocks that cross precinct borders. Wherever we see increases in crime, we analyze those spikes, and those areas become our zones. Hyper-local, concentrated regions where we can maximize the effectiveness and efficiency of our deployments. These deployments are flexible and can quickly adapt to shifting conditions through the use of our mobile field forces. The idea is quite literally to flood the zone. In a world with limited resources, you can't flood the zone across a 4-square-mile precinct, and you don't need to, but you can do that across 10 problematic blocks. Every day, We are deploying about 650 additional officers to dozens of zones around the city. These deployments are not about targeting individuals. They are about combating crime exactly where it's happening. This is a focused, location-based, scalpel approach to crime, and the early returns are extremely encouraging. Over the first 8 weeks of 2025, major crime in our zones is down more than 30% overall, including a 36% decline in our 125th Street zone in northern Manhattan, a 42% reduction in our downtown Flushing zone, and a 30% drop in crime in the White Plains Road zone in the Bronx. And in our Roosevelt Avenue zone, major crime is down 40% compared to last year. Complex analysis establishes the zones, and then, just like they did in 1993, we put the cops on the dots. It's a data-driven model based on straightforward logic. Uniform police presence drives down crime and disorder, and it's working above and below ground. With 472 stations, 6,712 subway cars, and 665 miles of mainline track, the New York City transit system is the largest and most traveled in the Western world. Every day, millions of people rely on the subway to get them where they need to go. And we know that the system will always be a bellwether for public safety in our city. Riders must be safe, and they must feel safe too. That's why, among my first major initiatives as police commissioner, I announced a 3-part transit safety plan, and I have a few updates on that plan for you this morning. First, to reiterate, part 1 began with optimizing our...
All right, before we go into her transit safety plan, Eric, what do you think what do you think about what she's saying with this broken windows, this return to broken windows?
So first thing she says, well, not the first thing. The first thing I identify, it kind of piggybacks what you said, Sal, right? So this is completely the Bratton policing model. I think someone said, I think it was Rob Lukash. My brother Rob, how you doing? Awesome show, by the way, the other day, Rob. Rob says Bratton 3.0. What does she say in here? She said, my mentor, Bratton. This is completely the Bratton model. They've taken the same horse and painted it a different color. What does she tell you? She says it's scalpel policing. What is scalpel policing? It means precision policing. And then they talk about zones. Zones are nothing new, especially Sal, John, Marlon, myself. We all worked in what we called and referred to as impact zones. Mm-hmm. When I was a brand new rookie, John was a brand new rookie. We worked in what we called impact zones. Those were zones, specific blocks within various precincts. Sometimes they had one zone. Some precincts had more than one zone. And those zones were identified by a high propensity of violence, where brand new rookies were placed with omnipresence and conducting intrusive police work under broken windows to stop and curb crime in these areas. So what she's doing right now is she's taking the same horse and painted it a different color and trying to sell this idea that they have a new model. Now, I actually think that this could actually be far worse than what we've seen before, because Jessica Tish quite often reflects that she's data-driven. Now, when it comes to driving data in these zones, this could be a major problem, and it reflects on what John said. It's going to be numbers for numbers, because when you're fighting data, you're fighting numbers. So it's going to be complete semantics. To me, it's kind of reflective of, I mean, a lot of people here probably saw the movie Moneyball. If you haven't seen the movie Moneyball, awesome movie. But what did they do in that movie? They started to analyze data to win baseball games. And initially, on the onset, it started to work. They started winning. But after a while, it started to implode. So there was some luck involved. But on the longevity, it did not last. So if anybody has an opportunity to see that movie, but when they start to analyze each player and analyze the game completely on data, they've started to lose the games eventually, because the same thing applies to the streets. Data is important to a point, but you also have to know these streets. You have to hear the streets, smell the streets. You have to know these streets. And Jessica Tish, she doesn't know these streets. John.
I'm going to say this. and Sum and Substance. She mentioned the big thing you said. Tish said, "Oh, Bill Bratton." So this is Bill Bratton's policing. We know that Operation Impact, which you're all a part of, which is basically what this is. The only thing is these cops are not trained the way we were when we had different legislators in office that favored this. So when these cops apply these, broken windows tactics out there, oh, we're going to write this. I don't even think certain summons can be written anymore, right? They had those old summonses or whatever that was. So it's a completely different ballgame. And on top of it, she's talking about crime is down and blah, blah, blah. Go to whitecollarfraud.com. Sam Antar wrote a beautiful article breaking down all these. The whole thing is a fabrication yet again. And he actually breaks down I guess like ethnicity, what is the chance of a Latino getting a victim of a crime, black people a victim of a crime, white people. He actually breaks this down. And he brings up the stats from the last 2 years, and you see the trends. And everything she says is a lie. And if crime is down, well, hey, when you got a lot of people that are self-deporting that are illegally here and part of gangs or getting deported or rounded up by ICE, that will also have an effect on things. So there's nothing new to this. You might see marginal things, which is like 28-day period, 7-day period. But overall, that trend is still way up here. It's going to take a while if you ever get it back down. So this is a lot of window dressing yet again and gaslighting.
Yeah, well, 100%. Sal. In a lot of ways, I've said this before, that the Bratton's approach to crime in a lot of ways was like a wartime approach. When we first implemented all of that, this was in the latter end, or I guess the mid 90s, where I'd say we were still fighting the crack war, and that approach was basically a wartime strategy, and you had an all hands on deck, which included the DAs. You had the DOJ was working with us post Edward Burns death. So this was and the city as a whole, even Democrats and liberals were fed up with the way things were. So this was like an all hands on deck approach, and everybody knew what the mission was, everybody knew what the problem was, and everybody was in on the plan. And Bratton himself kind of acknowledges this because in 2016, when the politicians started attacking broken windows, he noted, he kind of alluded to this when he mentions that broken windows enforcement has to be adjusted to its time, because he mentioned something called the peace dividend, right? So the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because what Tish is trying to implement is the equivalent of like your property on fire, and you pick up the hose and you decide to quench the fire that's on your lawn and on your backyard, but the house itself is still on fire. We need you need other parts of government to participate. You need the DAs to do their job. You need the councilmen, the assemblymen, the state senators to all do their job too. You can't. As I said before, you can arrest as many people as you want. You can go after as many quality of life issues as you want, but the human element, we still need to work on the human element, and that also includes the DAs. Bragg's back in 2022, Bragg's conviction rate for misdemeanors was 29%. I don't know what it is now, but 29% for misdemeanors and 50% for felonies. So I mean, where are we gonna go with this? Where are we gonna go? We need a whole of government approach, and everybody has to be all hands on deck to fix this issue.
Yeah, and what you got to take a look at and listen to, if you guys didn't pick up on it, listen to what she says. Crime in the zone is down 30%. Crime in this zone is down 40%. So what they're doing, instead of those arbitrary time frames, which they're still using, They're still using those arbitrary timeframes. Now they're actually focusing it out of the precinct and specifically into that zone. So they'll dazzle you with a little bit more comps. I imagine, oh my God, crime's down 40%. Oh, no, just in those 10 blocks. Just in those 10 blocks. And not now, but if you remove 2019 and 2020 and 2021 in those 8 blocks, and we don't count grand larcenies or murders or the times that the gun went off but didn't kill somebody, then yeah, crime's down 30%. And like, oh wow, that's great. So you got to listen to what's being said here. Someone asked, "Is Tish Finest Unfiltered approved? Approved? Is she the fine retired Unfiltered approved?" I mean, me personally, I think she's the better choice of everyone so far, which doesn't say much because she has 0 police experience. And the same clowns that have destroyed New York City are still running New York City, and the same clowns in the New York City Police Department that were doing completely low integrity maneuvers have not only been promoted but are still there. And so I'm not a fan at all. This is just she silenced them online. She's the cleanup crew, but the crew's still there in the background. You just don't see them on the cameras no more. You don't hear them. And there's good, and because of that, there will be less corruption coming out of the ranks of the upper echelon. But it's all a dog and pony show. Let's move on further with this and what she's talking about. So now she's going to get into transit crime. She's going to get into a few other things here.
Our resources to ensure that our deployments were as effective and efficient as possible. As a result of our analysis, more than 200 transit officers are assigned to daily dedicated subway patrols in the highest crime stations in the system. And within those stations, our officers are posted away from the entrances and mezzanines and onto the actual trains and platforms where 78% of transit crime actually occurs. Part 2 was the reassignment of hundreds of officers from desk jobs and administrative work to transit patrol, which enables us to put 2 uniformed officers on every overnight train in the city. These cops are highly visible and move from one car to the next, addressing conditions as they encounter them. And I want to mention Governor Hochul was instrumental in funding this segment of the plan. I am grateful for her partnership and her investments in transit safety. Part 3 is about the transit system's rules themselves, and it is a meaningful, systemic shift in how we approach policing in transit. Over the past 10 years, prohibitions against taking up multiple seats, laying outstretched, smoking, drinking alcohol have not been consistently enforced. This increased the perception of an unsafe system, and it needed to change. So we piloted that change in Transit District 20 in Queens. We've added Transit District 34 in Brooklyn, and if these pilots are successful, we're looking to expand this program in the coming months. Our cops will not simply walk by someone who is violating the law and disrupting other passengers. We will correct the condition. This is not a dragnet. This is not harassment. And this also isn't about one person taking up 2 seats on a half-empty train. This is about restoring a sense of safety and order to the system. It is also a response to New Yorkers telling us that unchecked disorder makes them feel less safe on the train. And the truth is, this approach also allows the NYPD to address the random acts of violence that we have seen in our subways. Since this refocused enforcement began, about 32% of the encounters have resulted in an arrest, mostly because of open, active warrants, meaning that these people who are violating transit rules were being sought for other crimes they'd committed in the past. Of those people arrested, 31% were convicted felons, and all combined, they had nearly 3,600 priors, which is an average of 20 prior arrests per person. Prime example, 3 weeks ago, 25-year-old Matthew Leon was stopped on a 7 train in Flushing for lying across several seats, a violation which in the past the NYPD would not have consistently enforced. It's a minor infraction, and officers were prepared to issue him a summons and eject him from the system. But they soon discovered that he was wanted for 2 previous subway attacks, where he randomly punched 2 women in the face on an R train in Manhattan. And as officers were processing those assault arrests, Leon was connected to the forcible touching and sex abuse of 3 young schoolgirls in Ridgewood, which happened the same day as he was stopped on the 7 train. So Leon, a known recidivist for assault and other sex crimes, was caught and jailed again. The early data is promising. So far this year, major crime in transit is down another 28% from 2024, and it's 46% below pre-pandemic levels. And with focused deployments and consistent enforcement, we expect these crime numbers to continue falling. I also want to add our streets and our subways are not homeless shelters or psychiatric hospitals. And while we have a moral duty to provide services, we cannot do this work alone. We require strong partners, and the NYPD stands with the mayor and the governor in their legislative efforts to proactively address severe mental illness. It's also time to take a fresh look at something that ABNY has championed from its beginning, improving the quality of life of every New Yorker. As you know, crime and violence are major parts of the public safety equation. But when residents, businesses, and tourists are plagued by issues like out-of-control scooters and e-bikes, aggressive panhandling, unruly street vending, public urination, open-air drug use, and more, it makes them feel unsafe, and it gives the impression of chaos and disorder. To address this, the NYPD is overhauling its approach to quality of life enforcement, and our plan, which will be finalized and implemented over the coming months, begins with the creation of the Quality of Life Division, headed by a new chief of citywide quality of life. Instead of various units scattered throughout the department, we will have dedicated precinct officers assigned to newly formed Q teams. These teams will have strong, centralized leadership and be specially trained to handle and resolve these issues. And we're also developing QStat, which will track quality of life complaints the same way that CompStat tracks crime complaints. Our QStat meetings will keep us accountable, more accurately measure our effectiveness, and recenter our approach to public safety. And I want to be very straightforward about this. Quality of life enforcement is based on community complaints. It's about listening to the people in our neighborhoods who are calling 311 and pleading for someone to come and help them. Over the past 6 years, those calls nearly doubled. From 2018 to 2024, complaints about illegal parking have gone up 202%. Noise complaints are up 119%. Calls about homeless encampments are up 557%. And complaints about panhandling have increased by 2,783%. New Yorkers are clearly demanding that something be done. And make no mistake, this is not about zero tolerance policing, which can be dangerous. While correcting these conditions, officers will always have discretion. And discretion starts with engagement. In New York City, it is clear that we don't have a surging crime problem, but we do have a surging recidivism problem. Compared to 2018, 2024 saw an unacceptable rise in the number of individuals.
All right. There was a lot there. So
Yeah, somebody put John, make it stop.
there was a lot there. But what are you thinking about what she's saying here, Eric, with the Q teams?
Well, as I anticipated before she even said it, I said to myself, here we go. Here's QStat. I want to reflect on what John said earlier. I anticipate that we're going to see a zone stat. And this is what I said earlier. It's complete semantics. It's going to be a complete manipulation of the crime statistics, because this is not necessarily going to curb crime. This is going to displace crime. If you analyze a 10-block radius or a diameter within the confines of a particular precinct, some of that crime will be displaced, and what we will notice, and that's where the real stat will be, is in the CompStat, or after it's actually audited, is in the close proximity to these zones, in the blocks in and around, and those areas surrounded by these zones will be impacted by these zones. If this intrusive police work under broken windows, under the style, under Jessica Tish, Bratton 3.0, if it's not done properly and it's just numbers for numbers as we anticipate, because we have an overwhelming majority of a police department as we speak that has not been trained in the broken windows, which is, I'm reflecting on what Sal Greco said, because what you said, Sal, is absolutely right. The majority of the police department has not been trained in this style of policing, which is intrusive police work. And all that means is actually interacting the public based on the case of People versus DeBoer. So there has to be study and training based on that Supreme Court case. And because there's an art to it, there's an art to dealing with the public and engaging them and having these legal street encounters, engaging someone at common law right of inquiry, and understand that you have the right to ask intrusive and incriminating questions to get to a point of detainment, which is an art and a skill. So we're just putting these officers into the field of fire right now. I think this is completely irresponsible. What did she also say? She says that transit, the crime is getting better compared to pre-pandemic levels. Just as John said, they particularly remove and they manipulate years and zones and locations. And that's what's going to happen with these zones. Just as we had earlier in the early days, an impact zone, these zones will be analyzed. We will see a major impact on the onset initially as we deploy officers to a specific zone. That will push some of the crime out. That will not stop the crime, that will displace it. So we will see the increase of crime in other areas. I think it's quite interesting. What she did not mention is a major problem in transit. What was pushed by the police department are these old summonses. So she didn't mention that these old summonses, which are civil in nature, are pretty much nothing. They're toilet paper. So when you issue someone a summons, an old summons that's civil in nature, there's no accountability for it. And that reflects what Marlon's saying. There's no accountability. So yes, we're going to issue these summonses. Now she's talking about actual ejections from transit. But if we're going to issue these old summonses, which are civil in nature, it will have zero impact. And what is she saying? In transit, till this day, we still have no plan. The plan that she has is a continuation of Eric Adams' plan, which is omnipresence in transit, flooding the transit with more cops, which is not sustainable, will put us into this issue of potential overtime, excessive overtime, where we are right now. So this is a major problem. These layers that we could peel back as Jessica Tish is talking. Again, what do I hear from her? I hear bedtime stories. She's sensualizing this, romanticizing this, telling stories about getting felons off the street from quality of life issues. This is something police have done since the beginning of time. And cops continue to do that as we speak. So they are doing that type of intrusive police work. But on a whole, as she's driving this data, if the cops are now going to arrest homeless people, because that's what she told you. If you read between the lines, their social services are going to arrest homeless. That is going to be putting us more at odds with the community. We were told numerous times that social services would be implemented into the police department to get homeless people off the street and provide them aid. But now we're going to arrest out of that situation. So we're bringing back the same unit they demonized, homeless outreach. We've now renamed it to the Q teams. So that's what I see. The Q teams, the quality of life teams, is the new brand for homeless outreach. We're going to arrest ourselves out of this situation.
Well, first off, I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but I'll reiterate again now. There's going to be a new chief, which means you're going to pull 30 to 40 people off patrol between staff and this whole Q unit, whatever they want to call it. Secondarily, this is going to be focused in zones. This is the old impact style. Third, there are lawsuits that are still pending from the Ray Kelly, Bill Bratton era of this broken windows / Operation Impact, the negative side of this. So, and then you heard Eric, who is just threading that needle in there with all kinds of things that you really need to pay attention to. Because number one, what she's saying is, yeah, we're going to go in there. We have people that have mental problems. So then the precision policing, which is what you need to retrain everyone in 2025 to do this broken window style policing. Because yes, you have to treat someone with a mental illness that you don't arrest this person, right? You want to send them to the hospital. But what she's really saying is anyone who's sleeping on the chair, we're going to do numbers for numbers. So when you go to the Transit 20 and Transit 32, they're arresting homeless people like it's 2010 or 12, whatever it was when they were doing this whole numbers for numbers game. Because remember what she's saying. Oh, the numbers are down minus the pandemic, all this rearranging the furniture kind of stuff. So again, it's numbers driven. Somebody's going to pout their chest out of this. It's all the same stuff from 20 years ago. And basically they're window dressing this to promote Jessica Tish to become the next mayor, because I saw how many of these outlets saying she's great, her family's great. Yeah, her money's great. That's what's great. But she is just doing the parroted narrative of Bill Bratton and Ray Kelly and the Stooges. That's all this is. I don't know. I just feel, I hope if you're an officer today, be cognizant of the years, 2025, the complaints you're going to receive and the lawsuits. Don't, they used to say on the job, there's an old saying, don't be that guy or don't be that girl, because you might be in front of that newspaper arresting one of these people, whatever the case is, and your life, your career, your freedom is over just because you followed the order. This is crazy. This is just Operation Impact all over again. And it's the worst of the worst of it, not even the good of it. Remember, precision policing, but you need to retrain people if that's the avenue you're going to take.
Yeah, she mentioned early in the video that quality of life and policing and policing crime and violent crime is kind of the baseline to the health of the city, and she's 100% right, because if people if people don't feel comfortable in a city, and if businesses don't feel that government is actually protecting them, they're going to eventually leave. So, this, like I mentioned last time, the human element of this, we keep dancing over, the element that you need manpower for this. Okay. How many times have we said that, the department can't do the things that it's trying to accomplish with the low manpower that it has, and they can't hit. Who's going to train these guys? We're just going to keep shifting guys to each zone. Or the minute you shift them, you give it a month and crime is going to be back up in that prior zone. So we're going to shift them back to that zone where, it's like shifting chairs on the Titanic, we keep dancing over the fact that we need more cops, and a lot of the problems in the state are problems that are created by these progressives themselves. She thanked Kathy Hochul in that speech also. I wish she had the confidence, she had the courage to also tell Kathy that she needs to hold state officials accountable, and she needs to do her job, because not only is she the head of the state, but she would also be the chief of the state Democrats, So why isn't she confronting the New York Democrat Party about its policy failures? Okay, because we're not going to get anywhere by adding more bureaucracy, which is what the Q stat and the Q teams are. It's more bureaucracy. We're not going to get anywhere by adding more bureaucracy to a problem that's still going to be there. The answer to these problems are not to add more chiefs, more paperwork on top of it. That's not going to do it. We need to get at the heart of the issue in order to progress. And New York better wake up soon, because as I've said many times before, we're becoming a state that's uncompetitive, and the quality of life just adds to that fact that we can't compete with jurisdictions that have better quality of life and have a cheaper quality of life over there. So the state got to wake up, and it starts with Kathy Hochul at the top.
So we beat up the broken windows. It's obviously not a return to broken windows. It's a gaslighting of broken windows. Oh, everything's going to be beautiful. It's going to be just like when you guys were married. Don't worry about it. That's all they're doing right now. They're gaslighting you with this. This is all nonsense. We moved people out of administrative positions. No, you didn't. They actually moved. You want to laugh? The kid that was investigating our case, whatever the hell his name was, the lieutenant, who was like, oh, I'm going to actually tell you who threatened the lives of your kids. They transferred him out of IAB Group 1 into the 122. He's transferred back into Internal Affairs into Group 25, which is the federal group. So there's zero integrity, and that remains in this department. They're moving people out of IAB, out of all these other administrative positions. And guess what they're doing as they move people out onto transit? Guess what they're doing? They're bringing new people in. And so it's like, no, you didn't move nobody out. Like you're just changing the faces. You're not moving nobody out. Unless they know somebody, of course, like this lieutenant who's now working with the feds. I mean, yeah, don't worry that he turned a blind eye to complete and total corruption. That's fine. That's fine. We're not going to look at that at all. But
hey, John,
so
I mean, Group 25. That means he's working with the illustrious Jeremy Orenstein.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, that's his boss now. He's a lieutenant there now. So, he got bounced out of Group 1 because Group 1 wasn't doing the right thing. He got sent to the 122, and now he's actually back in a group that basically is at a higher level than even Group 1. So it makes none of it makes sense, dude. It's let's move people out of here, but we'll move people in there. It's all just a shuffle game. It's all just there's a shuffle into the deck to make it look like something's happening. And that's all you're seeing here. And Marlon, I agree with you 100%. Just because you're adding more stats and different things to look at, this is all smoke and mirrors or a dog and pony show, like what we like to call it in the NYPD. One thing I personally think that needs to happen and needed to happen for a while is, they're having a huge problem recruiting. Obviously, that's no secret to anybody. Even though, the chief of personnel has been telling you they've been doing great, and everybody's been telling you they've been doing great. And Eric Adams was never worried about firing and forcing out all these people. Everybody, it's a great job. Everybody, no, we're doing good. We're doing good. Numbers are great. Locker room's in a good place. Unions are happy with us. All this nonsense that's been going on for the last 3 years. Jessica Tish finally admits they're having a problem recruiting. And her plan to alleviate that is to reduce the amount of college credits you need from 60 down to 24 or 25. I forget specifically off the top of my head. I personally have zero issue with that. I do not think that college leads you to be a good cop. I don't think it leads you to be a good supervisor. I don't think it makes you be a good executive. I do think that you will know the difference between they, there, or there. And you could write that, but I don't think that matters. I'm sorry. Just because you're grammatically better than somebody, or you could write a better report, I think you need to be able to write, retain information, read. I think those things are important, but I don't think that 24 college credits or 60 college credits matters. I think that lowering that opens it up to a pool of candidates from New York City, a pool of candidates from the inner cities. And I think those are the people that you traditionally see. And I think that are better cops. They're much better cops. And you went a kid that went 4 years and he went away to school partying and drinking, and as opposed to a kid that was in New York City, or a kid that went to the military, a kid that understands what's happening in these communities, that's from communities, that gives you the candidate you're looking for that understands what's happening in the city and what shouldn't happen. Eric, what are your thoughts about lowering the college requirement down?
So we had this topic recently. We spoke about doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, right? So here, I believe that she's doing the right thing, but she's doing it for the wrong reasons. I think this step should have been taken years ago. I have a college degree myself, and I can tell you right now, in my opinion, I don't think a college degree is necessary for entry-level police work. In fact, I agree with you. A college degree does not translate to any leadership type of skills. There's no doubt about it. You can be self-read and read books about leadership, but you have to also have hands-on experience as well. It goes hand to hand. And I will say this, with a college degree, some of the brightest and smartest people I've ever met in my life and I've encountered have never had a formal college education. Brian Layson in particular, super intelligent, very bright. He got his GED late in life. He's very open about it. He talks about it. And he's brilliant. He's very intelligent, speaks very well, poised, great leader. And his education came late. So and obviously he had life experience. He talks about how he was teaching EMS at the time. So a college degree, how I think it's fantastic if you pursue that. And I pursued it myself, but I don't think it's necessary for police work. Absolutely. But here we are. The reason it's done, it's for the wrong reasons. It's it's coupled with lowering standards to have lower pool of applicants. So the problem I do have with this at this point is because we're already seeking out the bottom of the barrel to fill seats in the police department. I have an issue with lowering the physical standards and getting rid of the run. I think that's a major problem. I think you need to be pressure tested. You need to be under physical stress, because as a police officer, every day you will be under stress and your heart needs to be handled. You need to handle the demands of police work. And, we've heard from Juanita Holmes, a former chief of the NYPD, correlate and indicate that the run is not reflective of everyday police work. And I completely argue that. And I don't think that's true at all. I think that you have to be pressure tested and you have to be able to endure the physical stress of police work. And that mile and a half is just something that gets your body pressure tested so you can feel what it's like to operate under those stresses. I do agree. I honestly don't think you need any college credits to become a police officer. I do believe that you can learn along the way within the police department. I think there could be writing seminars. There could be comprehension seminars on how to write. There should be leadership seminars. Absolutely. If I was police commissioner today, I would get rid of BMOC. It would not be 1 month long. I talked about this many times. It would be a 3-day leadership course at a military base, maybe in New Jersey, somewhere in Brooklyn, maybe Fort Hamilton, where you get a 3-day leadership course and you would go out to your precinct. That's all you need. You already have the tools. You're a police officer. Now you need to learn how to be a leader. But with that being said, it's unfortunate, but with this reduction of the college credits, they're going to target much lower qualified people. Now, there are super qualified people that have no college degree, but they have experience in life. So that's the problem I see now, is that they just keep tailoring down, lowering the standards, but they're not lowering this. They're not finding Ron Layson, who doesn't have a college degree at the time. I think he does now, but I'm saying they're not targeting Ron Layson, who doesn't have the college degree. They're targeting someone that's on psych meds. They're targeting someone that can't run. Targeting someone that doesn't even want to be a cop. They're meek, they're timid, they're docile, and they don't have college credit. So we're not talking to people that don't have college credit and life experience. That's where I see the problem, unfortunately. And a question that was posed to me the other day, and this is a great question. What about the people that now got on the job with 60 college credits or a college degree, where they feel that they had to go through different steps to become a police officer? So my recommendation would be at this point to the police department is, well, then incentivize those people. If your requirement to get on the job was 60 college credits, or to become a sergeant, you had to have 64 college credits, incentivize those people and give them points, or maybe points towards a transfer or something towards a unit. There has to be something worked out with this. But I do believe, unfortunately, it's a step in the right direction for the wrong reasons, coupled with lowered standards already. So that's where I see the problems.
Oh, look, I know they're having big problems trying to attract candidates. So obviously they're trying to appeal to an even bigger base, because nobody wants this job anymore. So I don't have a problem with the credit thing, because look, you can actually go online and go to college online, and you do a couple of tests. Next thing you know, you got 60 credits too. What would be more important is obviously life experience. Patrick Donahue made a great point. Maybe you need to be older. The age requirement needs to be, bumped up, where it's maybe 24 to get on the job. So, that'll eliminate a lot of people, because some people that get on a job at 21 or 22 end up doing these stupid things you hear about: drunk driving, domestic assaults. Like they just don't have that life experience to realize, I'm in a job that's serious and it has serious repercussions. And I could also, be a disgrace to the job by being a young kid. Because at 21, they say you kind of still act like you're 3 years younger than that. So a male on that job at 21 could be 18, so mentally. So you don't want to, you want to reduce that. So maybe the age requirement needs to be bumped up. I don't see it. The credit thing, it's more life experience, which Ron Layson says that. And also, when you go to police academy, you could give classes in something like psychology, trying to learn how do you deal with people in the street. And I'm not talking about like, all right, well, I have those stupid training classes that are like one day. I'm talking about maybe a month worth of kind of getting educated, almost like a seminar, which is over a month. which you would take in college. We're trying to learn how to deal with people psychologically, meaning, you know, not every situation is an arrest. Not, you know, kind of like teaching them how to do precision policing, which is why we go back to that original thing with the broken windows. That's kind of like how you would have to train people today if you want them to do that precision type policing, because they need to be educated on psychologically how to handle, one, the job, right? And two, the people, because you could talk to people and get results without smashing them in the face and handcuffing them, because that was kind of like the stuff we learned on the job, what not to do. Whereas 30 years ago, that was the kind of stuff they did. So, you know, that's an important thing. Also, the I guess the curriculum in the police academy, you could add to that. So if you want to go that route, taking away the credits, but I don't have a problem with it because it's really life experience.
Yeah. So I think society tends to move in cycles, right? And there comes a point where society moves too far in one direction and it needs a reset. And I think, as I've noted many times before, we're in the process of one right now. One of those problems is that we've gone too far towards academia. Okay, I think that in the past, college prepared people for the world and for the job market, but I think society shifted too far in the direction of abstract work instead of hands-on work. And again, as me and Sal had a discussion earlier in this week where we talked about real estate and how things changed in America, leading to where the situation is in New York. And you could kind of correlate the two, because what's happened is with the rise of academia, we move towards more abstract work behind a computer, work that you don't necessarily see the results immediately, you know? Whereas back in the old days, you had hands-on work, you know, you worked in a factory, you put together something, and then you saw the results of it. Now, how does this apply to policing? Well, you see the results in the paperwork we're getting and the more bureaucracy, you know? With the rise of academia, you see the rise of more paperwork for the sake of paperwork, you know? When I was in Intel, one of the things I hated was how you had to dance with these cases sometimes. A lot of cases that were complete garbage that I could close out in a day or two, but the department wanted me to keep dragging it on, you know, keep doing these unnecessary bullshit checks that it's like, we know what this problem is, we know what the issue is, we know this isn't real, let's close it out and move on to the next one. But you see, that happens because the people who run the department now are all college academics. They're people who have been trained by academia, people who've internalized a worldview built upon academia. Okay, and we saw the results of it also in 2020 with Tanya Meisenholder. Okay, people who think they're the smartest people in the room because they have degrees. So I think I agree with what she's doing. I don't think you need, unless you're going for a specialty degree, I don't think college is necessary in 2025. And I certainly don't think it's necessary for to become a good cop. Okay.
No, yeah, I agree totally, dude. And what's the difference between 60 to 24 credits? I mean, I've seen so many people up in arms over it, and I'm like, could you explain the difference to me between someone that has 24 credits and someone that has 60? I can't, you know, and I'm like, you know, and when I think of kids like lower income kids, like, you know, if you can't afford to go to college and you don't have that backing, like, listen, go to college, take the loan, get a job, pay it off. If you're not getting that, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not an intelligent person. You know, we replace education in this country, and we think that it correlates to intelligence, and it's the furthest thing from it. You know, when the riots kicked off in 2020, it was a great time to be in One Police Plaza to watch all of these academics, all of these people who believe themselves to be brilliant minds and great police officers. It was brilliant to watch them cower in fear. I was like, now everybody loves the cops, right? Oh, we all love the cops again, right? Because you're not getting out of here without us, right? You're not going home tonight without us, right? And so like I was laughing. I was like, wow. I was like, this is a rude awakening for the progressive mindset. You know, now you got to see, that guy that you think is a knuckle dragger, that guy that you think doesn't do anything and eats donuts all day and drinks coffee. You're afraid to even be in this building. You're afraid to leave the building. You're afraid to travel to home, right? Oh, you know why you weren't all those years? You know why New York City was this safe place? It was because of people like us. That's why. It was because of regular people. Yeah, maybe we didn't go to Harvard. Maybe we didn't go to Yale. Maybe we only had 24 college credits. Maybe you went to a trade school and you got 60 college credits. But those are the people that matter, right? Those are the people that kept New York City safe. So with all of this, right? With all of this, we're hearing the return to broken windows. We're hearing we're going to lower the college credits. The run's going to return. It's going to return, which means the run's been gone. And we were lied to, and New York City Mayor Eric Adams lied to you for the last 2.5 years because he told you the run was there, right? Because after what the hell's her name? The chief, who is the chief of training? She's now the deputy commissioner of probation.
Juanita Holmes.
Juanita Holmes. Juanita Holmes said no cop needs to be able to run a mile and a half. I think our heads all spun when that was right. So after she said that, Eric Adams came out and said, no. And not only Eric Adams, but the people who you all determined to be the greatest police commissioner ever, which is Keechant Sewell, and I have no idea what she accomplished or what she did. She ran away and never told anybody what happened. I don't even rank her as anything. Again, I think I don't compare her in police commissioners. She wasn't a police commissioner either. She fired Marlon, she fired Sal. She stayed completely silent during the mandate while she followed none of the rules herself. So I'm not a big fan of Keechant Sewell. She said that the run stated, so she lied to you too. So the greatest police commissioner ever, Keechant Sewell, who lasted about 6 months, she lied to you too, right? Because she told you guys that the run was there, but we just coming to find out now that the run hasn't been there for 3 years under Eric Adams. So yeah, absolutely. So now we have people who aren't qualified physically, who aren't qualified mentally, but who gives a crap about some bull crap educational requirement, 24 credits or 60 credits. But with that being said, we're saying that we're going to return to broken windows. What does broken windows police work look like? How is that implemented, right? I think those are the things we need to start to hone in on. It's like, what's going to happen, right? Because although they're telling you, don't worry about all the assaults on the subways. Don't worry about all the assaults on the subways because most of the assaults are against police officers just doing their job, right? And yeah, absolutely, you're going to have more friction. There's going to be more. You're going to see police that are going to actually approach individuals who are more likely to resist arrest if they're doing their job right. If you're doing your job right, you're going to the criminal element. You're not pulling over grandma. You're not ignoring the Guidos in Staten Island blowing pot smoke out the window, driving the car, blasting the radio with their shirts off that are gonna baseball bat somebody. You're not ignoring those guys. You're gonna pull those guys over. You're not ignoring the group of black kids in the car with fake plates, blowing weed smoke out the window who might go do the same thing and bat somebody or shoot somebody. You're not ignoring those. You're going towards them. That's proactive police work. You're going to who is likely to commit crimes that day, who's actually committing a crime. You're not stopping grandma who's on her cell phone because she's late to pick up the kids from her daughter who needs to run to work. That's not public safety. Public safety is going after the criminal element. When you go after the criminal element, however, in progressive New York City, that's going to lead to complaints against cops. That's going to lead to these videos that come out. And ultimately today, it's going to lead to the fact that you're going to see that all that's happening is you're being gaslit because nobody's going to stand up for these cops. I got a video just came out from New York Scoop. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but if you're not, you should definitely check out New York Scoop on Twitter. And I'm gonna bring that up to the screen right now. But before I do, Eric, what do you think about what I'm saying around this?
I think you're spot on. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what we're talking about here is it needs to come to light that we need people that are built for police work. Goes back to what we talk about all the time. We need those masculine traits. That's what you need. You need people with masculine traits that are of sound mind. And that's why I said I don't have a problem. I actually, and again, I say it all the time. Some of the brightest and smartest people I've ever met in my entire life do not have a formal education. I pursued a formal education because my initial goal was to be a JAG officer in the Marines. So I got myself a BA in history because I wanted to be a lawyer in the Marines. Obviously, I eventually changed course. Maybe I'll call Jeffrey Madry and tell him and find out, what's my way of becoming a lawyer. But yeah, the bottom line
at work if you're Jeffrey Madry, though. you get to not do your job, have casualty run around like an idiot. You report to the police academy every day, get on duty booty when you're working, and then while you're at work, you study and you get your law degree for 3 years. You study for 3 years, fail it 3 times, then finally get your law degree, all while getting paid as a 3-star chief.
That's what I should
you get somebody else to do your homework.
and write your report. And write your thesis.
I should call Jeffrey Madry. How did you have time to get on duty booty and study for the bar and pass? It's impressive. And get all these guys to do your job for you. So, but anyway, I honestly, I have met some of the brightest people without a formal education, but we need people that are actually built for police work. And unfortunately, I say it all the time. I really do believe this. I know Ron Layson will disagree with me, but Ron, if you're watching this still, if you're with your kid, I get it. But if you're watching this, you were the executive officer at Canada Assessment from 2016 to 2018. That is a pinnacle point. 2018 is when everything changed with the legislation. 2018 is when I became a target from the overzealous CCRB. We now hire meek, timid, and docile. I've sat in college classrooms, and I can tell you, sometimes I would look around and say, don't get me wrong, there were plenty of intelligent people there. But there were plenty of people I would look around like, wow, these people are going to function through life. They get a college degree, and they're going to get at the time, a six-figure year job, which was a big deal. And, in 98, 99, going to college, these people get a 6-figure year job. The bottom line is that is not the necessary tools for police work. We need those masculine traits. We need people that are strong, but also compassionate. We need people that know when to speak and then know when not to. We need people with poise, people with dignity, people that are stoic, people that have integrity. We need strong men and women. That's the reality. Strong men and women that know how to deal with people. And especially they should be tailored to their community. It should be New York City kids. Don't get me wrong. There's fantastic. I've worked with some cops. They're from Long Island. They're from out of state. They were from upstate, and they were fantastic cops. But we do need, not black or brown, doesn't matter what color they are. We need the overwhelming majority of the apparatus to be New York City kids that understand New York City. And I welcome anyone else to come to the NYPD, of course, as well. But we do need the majority to be New York City kids that grew up in New York City streets. They know what the streets smell like. They know what they sound like. They can feel the streets. That's what it is to be a cop. You have to understand those streets. You have to know the people. You have to have compassion for people. Understand what they're thinking. Understand the community in transit. Understand the community in housing. Understand the community that you're working in. Get to know the people. You need strong people. I mean, look at Terry Avon, who just got promoted to second grade detective. You look at the picture. That's a masculine. It's a big man who's strong, who took a bullet and he took a bullet and pretty much shrugged it off because he has those masculine traits. That's what we need. And unfortunately, the left and Tanya Meisenholder, they look at him and they say he's a knuckle dragger, right? They want people that don't engage the public, but it's people like Terry Avon that keep the streets safe, who engage the public less because he's a big figure. He makes a good presence. He's a strong figure. I can tell you he's one of the most passionate and gentle people I've ever met. And he's a giant and strong at the same time. That's the people that we need.
All right, so let's bring this video up into the screen, and then let's go around with that. Let me make that full screen view. All right, this comes out from New York Scoop. Check him out on X. He's also on Instagram as well at NYC Scoop. And this comes out from, I believe, in Manhattan. This is broken windows policing. This is what happens during broken windows. Here we go.
Yes. Yo, hey, oficial, hey, guys,
Record that.
yo,
Get him alone already, man. What the fuck are you doing?
yo,
You already got him, bro. You can't do that.
bro.
You don't hit him like that.
Yo,
You got him already, man.
it's in the video,
You on video, bro.
it's in the video, okay?
Don't get him. What the fuck are you doing?
Don't touch it. Don't
Fucking do that.
touch. It's in the video. Yo, listen. Yo, hey, don't touch. You, don't touch. Well, fuck you. Yo,
Don't hit him no more. You don't
Hey.
do that, man. He's a fucking human being.
yeah, stupid.
You don't fucking do that, man.
Yes.
Chase him and get it over with.
Yo, it's in the video. It's in the video, bro. Okay, it's in the video.
Don't hit him no more. You don't do that.
Oh, yo, it's this.
You okay? You okay?
See,
But
you
that's
okay?
what he did. That's
Yo.
what he did, though. Okay, that's it.
Yo.
That's it. You
Yo.
got it.
Yo, listen, it's in the video, motherfucker, okay? Huh?
Use your fucking handcuffs.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, it's like this. No, you, this.
You're fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not him. It's not him.
la cara, Oh, ya lo tengo aquí.
That shit with the fucking-
Yo.
That's wrong.
Yo.
That's wrong of you, man. That's
Yo.
wrong of you, man.
Yo, you're stupid, man.
Mira, le rompió la boca.
Me rompiste la boca. Yo, it's okay, Wilma. No, you. It's like this. Say you. No.
All right, so we saw what happened. Let's go around. Sal, you want to go first?
So, you're muted.
All right, sorry. So I said, if you look at my X off this incident I put up, they actually modified this cop. So I also got a ton of CCRB complaints from the family of this person that they locked up. If you saw how that started, right? Number one, I don't know how much time these guys have. This guy's tax number is 97 something. So he's kind of newer. But what do they teach you? When you grab this guy, he's on the ground. The guy's on top of him. You got to get him handcuffed. Otherwise, and you saw how the scene started. You got to get him handcuffed and get him out of there as quick as you can, because you could see that the scene is starting to form. And I wouldn't even pay attention to what this guy's screaming. You just get him handcuffed and get out of there, because you see how things have progressed. I don't know about hitting the guy in the head. I don't know. It depends. Is that the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do? But we're taught, first thing you do, you tell him, turn around. He resists a little bit, then you got to handcuff him. If he's on the ground, flip him, get him in handcuffs, and get out of there. I don't even think there was an attempt at handcuffing him for a long time, because they're looking at the camera guy. Who cares about the guy with the camera? Get him handcuffed and get him out of there. That is, I think, why Shell even modified him, unless it's because of the CCRB complaints. But again, this is a broken window style of policing, and it doesn't even look like this guy with a 97 tax number is even trained for this. They didn't tell him about broken windows and how to handle it. So this is a situation now. There's going to be a lawsuit. They're probably going to dismiss this case, even though this guy put the other cop in a headlock. I don't know if you saw that, because that's what happened there. So his partner was being headlocked, and then when they go on the ground, he's worried about the guy with the camera instead of getting the defendant in handcuffs, which would have been over right away. But maybe I don't want to be Monday morning quarterback, but like that's how we would train. So,
Marlon, what do you think about this, bro?
Yeah, this is a department created problem. The entire problem here, the baseline problem here is that you can no longer put your knee on somebody's back, because I've collared guys myself with nobody else around me, guys twice the size of me, by being able to use my force and exert pressure on their shoulders and then their upper back in order for me to use both my free hands to grab a hold of their hands and put the cuffs on. And if you can't do that, you're going to need like a team of 5 guys to arrest everybody. And I keep saying that. And this department long ago should have been using its legal resources to continually challenge the diaphragm law. You see, now in a situation like that, you have the frustrations of the job. And now on top of that, you have the frustration of having to find a way to cuff this guy when with the diaphragm law and with all the post George Floyd reforms. The problem is this is a department created problem, and the department's gonna now modify the guy. Now I'm not saying the cop didn't do any wrong, because obviously he did a lot of wrong there. But I'm saying this is a training issue, and this is a legal issue, and the department it has done a terrible job in either case. And until we get to fixing the getting rid of the diaphragm law, we're going to have these issues where cops try to arrest these guys, and the arrest goes sideways, and it keeps and the cops get frustrated, and it evolves. The entire arrest procedure devolves into basically ground and pound, and there's just no getting around the problem here.
Eric, Eric, you've done this before. Eric, what do you think on this? Because I don't even know what this is about.
Si, I love you, but I got to push back on you a little bit, because the way you made it sounds great. Sounds great. Grab him, put some pressure, let's turn him over. But without the proper training, that is it's a very daunting task. If you don't have the proper training, now cops are built differently. Some cops are big and strong and can muscle their way through things with lack of technique. And some cops are a smaller stature, like these cops here. Not the cop that's on top of him actually violating the diaphragm law, unfortunately, incidentally. But the cop that's actually punched him to the face. So we're all built differently, but it's technique and training that would help when you're not of big stature to muscle your way through things. So I blame this on training. There is absolutely no training. Unfortunately, most men have this false sense of belief, this primal instinct that they can, when they get angry, they get red, they can fight. And I love those guys. Because those guys, I used to just wait. All right. They're talking to me, and, they would throw a punch, and they're exhausted. And then I tackle them, take them down, put them in handcuffs because of training. And it's unfortunate these cops are not trained. It's nice. All men want to believe that they could fight. But if you don't cook, if you never go in the kitchen, can you actually make a meal? If you never drive a car, could you actually drive a car? These cops need training. And I don't agree with the modifications cop at all. The context is completely missing from the beginning. We don't have the context. They didn't just end up on the floor. What's a shame about the stupid diaphragm law, technically this cop is violating that diaphragm law. And this cop punched him to the face. What is he left to do with a lack of training? He has a resistant perpetrator. Both of them lack training. They can't hold him down. They can't get him in a position to handcuff him. You have to have position before submission. What does that mean? That's something you learn in jiu-jitsu, but any martial art. You have to be able to have control over your subject until you get them in handcuffs. And that's where cops fail, is they try to put handcuffs on someone that they have no control over, and it becomes a dance. It looks ridiculous. Now, I have a problem with the modification of this cop. If this cop is modified for punching him to the face because you can't get him in handcuffs, then what do we say about Lieutenant Stephanopoulos, who stopped someone in the head, who's supposed to be a trained lieutenant in a specialized unit, who stopped? I never stomped a perpetrator in the head ever. He should have been suspended. How can this cop be modified? What is standard? What is the metric? What is the measure? These cops need training. We have to train them. I'm not saying they have to be jiu-jitsu specialist. You don't have to be a Krav Maga specialist, but you have to have effective training. And there has to be training. I used to tell my cops, don't ever take your handcuffs out until your subject is ready to be handcuffed. And how do you get the subject ready to be handcuffed? It's by having control. And they don't have any control of this subject. And that screaming crowd needs to be addressed. There needs to be more cops there addressing that crowd. Mike Smith put a comment here that when he and I were trained together, we would control the crowd. And that's what you're talking about also, Sal. We were taught to control our subjects and to control our crowds. We didn't have great physical training, but it's far better than what they have here. But most of us grew up in New York City, and we grew up kind of tough, and we've been around, we've been pressure tested. But unfortunately, these cops just don't have the training. We need training. We need training, because without training, that's what these videos look like. But I don't see why this cop should be modified. They could not get him in handcuffs. Obviously, they had a resistant perpetrator. There's a lot of context missing from here. And they violated the diaphragm law, which is really unfortunate. It's virtually impossible. And as Marlon said, that is a great, fantastic technique. If you go knee to belly, knee on chest, knee on back, you put your knee and you apply pressure properly, that's pain compliance, and you can get someone in handcuffs, potentially by yourself. It's extremely tough, but you can. But without training, this is what it looks like.
If I may, John.
So I just want to get this out before I forget this, because I'm really going to push back on all of these now. So one, I'll give the context of what happened. I didn't give it originally for a reason, because the reason is police work is a contact sport. It does not look pretty on camera. And what you saw does not look pretty. So one, you just spoke about the diaphragm law, right? They cannot use pain compliance. They cannot use any move that is related to training. So I don't even know what you're talking about when you're saying training, because there is no training for them. The training that they have is what they're left with is hand strikes. Ron Layson says if you use hand strikes, you're going to go to jail. So why are we training cops to use hand strikes? We took away every tool for the New York City Police Department. These kids are untrained, 100%. But what training is there to overcome this? What training could we have to use? We're going to teach them jujitsu that if they utilize, they're going to go to jail and get arrested for it. You know, and then, so I don't agree with the kid being modified at all. This is broken windows policing. I'm going to tell you why this was broken windows policing. Let's give the context of what happened. Let's give the people asking, why is this broken windows policing? This is what we're doing. We're taking young, untrained, and they are untrained. They're not trained like we were. They're trained much softer, much different when we were. Things are devolving before they're put into handcuffs. And the tactics that we were able to deploy, they're not able to deploy. And then if you go further into martial arts and you want to say, oh, people should understand martial arts, you can't utilize it. The only form of martial arts that you could utilize is a boxing or a Muay Thai, hard strikes, which, by the way, is going to enrage everybody that watches it, including cops that are watching this video that are saying, oh my God, I can't believe what they did. Really? What'd you want them to do? The guy's on the ground, his partner's on the ground being choked. Right now, we don't know what the stop was about, but we know that they're trying to arrest a person, right? That's what we know when we're watching it. Now you see they fall to the ground, and the partner is actually, the entire time, the perpetrator is resisting arrest. The entire time, the perpetrator has his hand around the neck of the cop that he's on top of. So before you go, Marlon, this is the incident. On Friday, February, and this comes out from the NYPD DCPI. On Friday, February 21st, 2025, at 1900 hours, at the northwest corner of Huron Street and Manhattan Avenue, officers observed a male kicking the door at 933 Manhattan Avenue. Broken windows policing, right? You observe a crime and you proactively engage. Disorderly conduct, potentially criminal mischief, right? An employee at the location informed the officers he did not want the individual inside of the store. So now we have a trespass issue. The officers observed the individual with an open container of alcohol, broken windows policing, minor crimes, policing the minor crimes. They prevent the major crimes, and attempted to issue the male a summons. When an officer attempted to take him into custody, the individual did place one officer in a headlock, causing an injury to the officer's arm and neck, and additionally hooked his leg around the officer, causing the officer to fall. The individual also attempted to swing a glass bottle at officers. The following individual was arrested and charged. Wilmar Alvarado, 29 years old. Not going to give his address. Charges: assault on a police officer 2, strangulation, resisting arrest, obstructing governmental administration, alcoholic beverage, public consumption, disorderly conduct, harassment. So I'm not seeing anything wrong here. I don't.
Yeah, you're 100% right, John. That adds a whole different context to it, you know? In fact, I'm not even sure he should be modified now, because once that perp went at the officer's neck.
I don't think he should be modified. I did say that, Marlon. I did say that. I don't think he should be modified at all.
Yeah.
But John, I gotta say, brother, I submit. I agree with all my training, all my experience. There is no training. I gotta agree.
You're going to go to jail. You're more likely to go to jail than they are.
You win, brother. I agree. I know what needs to be done, and it can't be done. So you're forced to blunt trauma. That's why I have no issue with him punching him in the face, because that's all he's left with. I don't. But do you agree with me, Marlon? I'm saying, if this guy's modified, how is Lieutenant Stephanopoulos? How is he never suspended? Where is the standard? Where's the metric? Where's the measure?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just before you go, sorry, Marlon, and just before you go, like, what would we have done? Like, I'm not trained in martial arts. I've taken martial art classes. I've done a lot of different things in my life, but I don't consider myself a well-trained in any form of martial arts whatsoever. But, like, what would we have done, Eric? We would have got on him when he was on top of you. We would have got his arm. We would have bent his arm backwards, rolled him over onto his belly, put our knees in his back, and used his limbs against him to get him in handcuffs. If those kids do that, they're getting arrested, they're getting modified, they're getting suspended.
I agree. Listen, that was my point. I know what needs to be done. We all know what needs to be done. Our friends and listeners here know what needs to be done, and it can't be done. You're forced to blunt trauma. Absolutely. You're forced to kicking and punching, which to me, the optics are far worse than actually submission and grappling control. It's far worse. But this was implemented by complete idiot savants that have no idea about police work. They all suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's New York City Council. They've never grappled. They should put in New York City Council, like you see in the jiu-jitsu class, they have a grappling dummy, and the dummy, people wrestle with it to learn. They should put a grappling dummy in New York City Council and let them wrestle with that grappling dummy and see if they can actually control that dummy before they actually control the person. Again, and that's why I said, if you remember, I said earlier, Marlon, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your thunder away.
No.
We're all passionate about this, but I said you don't need to be a jiu-jitsu expert. You don't need to be a martial arts, but you need to have the training of how to control somebody. That's what police work is. And they can't even do it. So I have to agree with you. I submit. I agree. You can't do it. You're left with punching him and kicking him. You can't put any pressure to his body. The reality is what they should be doing, and it would look horrible, stand up and just kick him in the side until he gives up. Because now you're not engaging. But the reality is you can't do anything. I agree.
Yeah. This department better come up with some standards, like you said, Eric, because you're going to start firing a whole bunch of rookies. Because here's the problem, right? The inability to exert force on their upper body and shoulders with your knees means that the fight, it means your attempts to put them into cuffs is going to take a whole lot longer. And it's my opinion that the longer a fight goes on, the more likely things are to go sideways, because that guy could reach for your firearm, and now we gotta escalate the force used on the perp, as opposed to if you were able to quickly put your exert force on their upper body and it's turn them around and slap the cuffs on real quickly. Now we're getting into a struggle, and the perp is gonna do his best to try and escape, and that may include reaching for your firearm. So that's gonna take a, it's gonna make these incidents go sideways much faster, especially since these rookies aren't trained. They aren't accustomed to a system that we're now trying to force on them, which is the quality of life enforcement. And also, the perps on the street now have gone 10 years without that style of enforcement. We live in a post-George Floyd era, post-BLM, post-2020. So now you think when they get an approach by rookies and told, oh, let me see your ID, and you're getting one for this open container. What are they gonna do now? They're not gonna willingly comply. So one of the biggest problems with Operation Impact was it was putting untrained rookies into these high crime areas and telling them to be aggressive when they aren't trained for it. They don't have clear guidelines. So here we see it exactly being repeated. We're asking these rookies who aren't trained in this type of enforcement to go into these high crime areas and start enforcing quality of life issues that even worse than before. The guys on the street aren't accustomed to that, and they're going to put up a fight now. And on top of that, these rookies they have the diaphragm law to deal with. So if this department better come up with some standards, because you're going to be firing a lot of rookies.
It's unfortunate, but the unions should be out there fighting, saying we cannot do police work at all. Unfortunately, we can't do it at all with these standards, with this diaphragm law, because the reality is, thank God this cop had no idea how to throw a punch. First of all, this cop should not be modified by any means. I said that, John, even before you gave the context. I have said that already. He should not be modified. He's not trained, but thank God he doesn't know how to throw a punch, because the reality is, John, as big as you are, if you deployed that punch, or Sal or myself in the position he was in, you might even kill him. You can punch him and he hits his head on that ground. It could be deadly.
I agree with you 100%, dude. But it's like they're trying to do some form of pain compliance, and that's like the only thing. Because how would you tasing him in his face or in his neck at that point? Like,
no, they have no choice.
It was a really bad position.
Terrible.
That the partner was like on top of him, but he was being choked from on the top position, so he was trying not to hit his partner. So and that's why I held off on giving the context, because this is what happens. Like, the public sees this, and it does. I'm not gonna lie. I watched the video. I'm like, yeah, it looks bad, but I also don't think the cops are just walking up to him. I also always attack the situation like, okay, more than likely this guy broke the law, and the cops have already tried to talk him into handcuffs a few times, and now they're left with the part where they got to go hands on. So I always attack videos like that when you look at it with that situation. But I just want to play it again one more time before you go, Sal, because I just want the audience to see it again now with this context. And the context is, this guy is kicking the store, a store of a business. The business does not want him in there because he's drunk and disorderly. He's acting out on the street. The cops attempt to stop him, and he is not complying whatsoever. He has a glass bottle in his hand, and the minute the cops try to grab him, he fights. So I just want to play it one more time again, and before you go.
Yes. Yo, hey, oficial, hey, no,
Record that.
Yo,
Leave him alone already, man. What the fuck are you doing?
Yo.
You already got him, bro. You can't do that.
Yo.
You don't hit him like that.
Yo.
You got him already, man.
It's in the video.
You on video, bro.
It's in the video, okay?
And just at this point right here, the cop's on top of him. He's holding his hands aggressively. So if he lets go of the perpetrator's hands, you know where the perpetrator's hands are going? They're going to punch the cop right in the face or poke his eye out or grab his ear. He's going to attempt to choke him again. So just put that context as he's still actively resisting here, even though it appears to be under control.
Well, John, I don't think anybody from this panel, or at least myself, I know Marlon, I'm not sure about Sal, feel that this cop should be modified. Even without the context, we knew there's no way you're ending up on the ground in this manner. It didn't start from here. And again, I don't blame the cop. I feel sorry for him. I do believe he lacks training. I think his punches in itself are ineffective. I don't think he's ever actually threw a punch in his life. But he's doing what he can with what he has, with a lack of training. It's a bad position. You can see you can tell he's new. He's unsure. He doesn't even know his location. He doesn't know how to control the crowd. We really have been emasculated. His presence alone is not enough. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It really is, because a lot of people will look at this without the context, without police experience, and look at the cop as the aggressor. And it's unfortunate, but thank God his punches are ineffective, because I don't believe in this term of lethal and non-lethal devices, because a punch can be lethal.
Eric, see this right here? Look, here's what I'm talking about. Now, I don't, as far as modifying a guy, I don't think he should be modified, but his tactics here are horrendous. He's standing over this guy. He's still not handcuffed, and he's paying attention to everybody but the guy that can hurt his partner. Do you understand what that means? That's what you could get him on. Look, now he's got his hand. After he stood over him, he's looking around. The guy, he's worried about the guy with the camera who can't hurt him.
I know what you're saying.
I don't think the guy can't hurt him. Like, let's not, like, you're in that scenario, and if I'm him, I'm worried about that entire crowd attacking me or my partner or jumping in there. I will not say that he cannot hurt him.
Bingo.
Exactly. You have to have your eyes everywhere.
Yeah, this isn't Michael Kemper. By the way, Michael Kemper, thank you so much for your donation. Michael Kemper actually donated after we were very critical of him.
Shout out to Mike Kemper.
That's right. But Michael Kemper says don't look him in the eyes. You need to look at that crowd. You need to watch that crowd. I think that this cop, unfortunately, he looks new. He looks very unsure, which is normal. He's new. He lacks the training. He doesn't know what to do. I feel sorry for him. He's saying, I do. I really feel sorry for him, because he doesn't. What do I do? Do I grab him? Do I punch him? Do I watch crowd? He has no idea what to do. And it's just really unfortunate. Our cops lack training, and the appearance of the optics is when you lack training, it looks unprofessional. You know, like I said, there are some outliers out there that don't need training. They just happen to be big people. Maybe they're 6'5", 300 pounds, and they can muscle their way through things. But the average person's 5'9", 5'10", maybe 170, 180 pounds, and you need training. You need technique. But unfortunately, I have to agree with John. No matter how much training you have, you can't do it. The optics, the diaphragm law, you're handcuffed. And I feel sorry for this cop. He has no idea where he is. He doesn't know what to tell his partner. He's looking at the crowd. You don't know who's going to help you anymore in the police department. I can tell you right now, if anybody who's active, if you can tell me I'm wrong, please, call in at 85 today. And my retired guys are going to probably be shocked. You call in 85 today, which, and if for our layman's people, an 85 is a radio code, or anybody who's outside NYPD, you're asking for assistance. That's when the cops come. Today, it's like selectively, well, who in that 85 when they get there is going to help you? The retired guys they're probably like, oh my God, no way. Because back in the day, in the old times, when you called it 85, you were praying. You were praying that the cops didn't beat up your perp. You were like, please, I got him. He's good. Everybody wanted to help you. Am I right, John?
100%, dude.
You know,
and like 100%, because that's it. People were coming. The troops were coming. And and one other thing, when the community heard the sirens, there was a calming effect. They're like, all right, everybody hang out now. It was a different time, you know, and there was an omnipresence. And you're 100% right, dude. 100% right. Sal, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up on this one?
Well, I'm going to say this. I still think that officer, even it should be modified. His tactics were poor. Even the crowd that's there, you could still step on the guy's leg. He was trying to kick the guy, his partner. I mean, you have to do something. You could look. I would do this. I would hold the guy down and look at the crowd. Oh, that's how I would do it. I mean, I can't look. I'm 6'3", 250. I ran like 10 miles in like an hour and 20 minutes. I could personally say, okay, things would be different for me than that kid. But the kid looked lost and could have put his partner at risk by not doing anything and paying attention to a guy with a camera when all he has to do is put his foot on his leg so he can't kick him and he can handcuff him. I mean, that's just me speaking out of experience. But the reason I put up him being modified, we already know about the Stephanopoulos case where he kicked the guy in the head for no reason. There's another case that you and I, Eric, we broke down. 4 city workers in a Maybach get stopped in Queens. What did they get stopped for? For tints from this reckless sergeant and a bunch of cowboy cops without a tint meter. They then pull guys in the back seat that had their seatbelt. Nobody's drunk. They're just saying, what do you stop me for? Tints. What percentage is the tints? Oh, they're too dark. Get out. Why? They think it's what I believe it is, they think this car has drugs or something in it because it's a fancy car in the neighborhood, not realizing it's 4 city workers. They beat the hell out of one of them, right? And the sergeant that instigated the whole thing and the lieutenant always resisting. And you and I watched that video, Eric. The guy's hands were behind his back saying, I'm not doing anything. He wasn't. He's on video and never resisted at all. In fact, they dropped the case there. They made it an OCD or something. But what did that sergeant do? Nothing. He watched another cop give this guy pot shots in the head, even though he's handcuffed. It's really a bad video. That sergeant is actually getting promoted today to lieutenant. He shouldn't be, because he's not only in a lawsuit, he's got a complaint. And the kicker to this was the night of this, the main person that was the driver, his father's a first-grade detective and the mother that's retired. But guess who he called? Guess who he went to academy with? The swagger man with no plan, the blue MAGA mayor, Eric Adams himself. They spoke to Madry, who was the chief of department, Iglesias, the chief of internal affairs, and Eric Adams. I got it. Don't worry. You know how he talks. I got it. Don't worry. There was nothing that happened. Nothing. These people got modified. 2 lowly cops getting modified for doing all that stuff. Whereas the sergeant instigated the case, let them beat this guy up. They also give the guy a summons, which you can't do without doing the.
I get it, but we didn't break down that video, and I don't even know what you're talking. I've never even seen the video. Like,
well,
everyone on here is asking what video. We don't know. Like we can't really give an analysis of that video based upon one, you know.
It's the Harold Thomas case, because it's Harold Thomas's son and the same name. They're city workers, and they viciously beat these kids for no reason other than you have tinted windows and you don't have a tint meter. And then they bring them to the precinct, and this sergeant and the lieutenant, he's resisting. The sergeant's just standing there after starting this. Your cops are in a false arrest situation. What are you doing? And he's getting promoted today while he's sued, which means internal affairs didn't do their job. And the biggest part here was that Eric Adams himself told them, I'm going to look in this. I'm going to take care of it. Even the other day, the detective, the Harold called him. I'm going to look into this. He's getting promoted.
Do we have this video? Where's the video? Because you're bringing up a video that no one sees. I don't know what we're talking about here. Like, everyone's like, I need to see the video. I want to see the video. Send me the video in X. I'll pull it up. I don't know what you're talking. I can't comment on it. You know?
Yeah, some people are asking here. Veronica Electron said, please show us the video. Someone else, Bones said, I need to see it. LOL.
Yeah.
I just sent it. I'm sending it to you right now.
I think what Sal is getting at, though, is the unevenness.
Only because in that situation, how the hell do you it's different rules for different people. So that kid, he's a 97 tax number. He doesn't know anybody. Here's Shell. Meanwhile, his buddy kicks people in the head. That's okay. And then the other guys who are somehow tied back to Eric Adams, even though the victims know him, they're picking sides. We're going to promote this guy. What a great sergeant. He's standing over cops that are beating up on a guy senseless and for no reason. But hey,
here's the question:
he gets taken care of. This guy gets suspended.
No, you make it. Listen, that's what we're talking about. The standard here, right? So I love to just ask. So, you know what, Sal, you answer on it first because you and I that's what we're talking about. The standard.
No, it's infuriating. It really is.
Stepping off, right? Stepping
This
off.
kid has good tactics, Eric, but he doesn't. Does he deserve to be modified? Where we have two situations we know: the Stephanopoulos incident, and now this one, where there's a completely different reaction. It's complete. It's always modified to low-hanging fruit. You got sergeants and lieutenants on the scene, and you got all that. Promote those guys. Actually, come on, this is ridiculous.
Do you think because he was modified, and he doesn't? He obviously he's not in the special tiers in the police department.
Yep.
Do you think he'll be arrested and charged?
No, because it's. I believe the 9-4 that's in Brooklyn. No, but I know this guy's family. Whoever this guy is, apparently they put a ton of complaints on this cop. Meanwhile, the guy choked his partner. But that pressure, it depends if that rises to the level of a lot of scrutiny, a lot of media attention, then they might step it up a notch. Right now, he's just modified. Luckily, he's not suspended. So that could go away. You know, they could be like, all right, we'll bench him. We'll give you guys, you know.
Marlon, what do you think, Marlon? Do you think he'll? I mean, this sets the tone, right? Juan Perez was charged and arrested and convicted. Do you think he'll be arrested?
No, I don't think this is going anywhere because the perp was choking his partner. Perp had his arm around his partner's neck, and that changes the dynamic completely, in my opinion.
But the perp choked Juan Perez, and he got indicted and arrested.
Good point.
You know,
For doing the same thing.
The perp. I agree with you, Sal. There's definitely a different standard. So this is the video you're talking about. This is on the Sanders firm. I'm just gonna say right now. I just want to preface this whole thing. I did not watch this video yet. This is the first time I'm gonna watch this video. I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to assume, and because I believe that we should give the assumption until we have all the video, the body camera video, and everything. I'm going to always side that these people were not following orders and were resisting arrest, because I'm just seeing already a cop fight. I don't believe cops are just ripping people out of the car and beating them up. I'm not gonna think that. Am I gonna say that doesn't happen? No, I'm not gonna say that doesn't happen because it's actually happened to me. So I'm not gonna say that doesn't happen. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know today with body cameras and all that stuff. So let's watch this video and then let's all break it down. I'll bring it up on the big screen. Let's bring it up. All right, here we go.
I'm recording.
Yo, bro, you punched me in the face.
Yeah.
Why are you punching me?
Why is he punching him?
Why are you punching me?
Back up. Just back up, okay? No problem. Just back up.
Why are you punching me?
No problem. Just back up, sir. No problem. Back up a little bit. Sir, back up a little bit. I backed up. Don't try to block the view. He's punching him.
I was getting out of the car. I didn't need your help.
And he's telling him, shut the fuck
I'm
up.
not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. What are you doing?
Do what you gotta do. You're not gonna find anything. My license is valid. Hurry up, please. We can go, bro.
Don't move. I recorded this. He punched him for no
He
reason.
punched me in the face, man.
I know. Yo, shoot him, please. Because he didn't resist nothing. Y'all punched him. There was no reason to punch him and arrest him.
Shooting him. Nobody's shooting him.
I said punch him. I didn't say shoot him. Listen to me clearly. I said he punched him.
Might be your ass now.
He didn't shoot him. He punched him for no reason.
Is there any more of this video with fighting or resisting arrest?
I think they take someone else in the corner, but I don't think that other guy was resistant. From what I remember, I just remember that that guy was on the ground. Well, you missed it. His other videos they crunched together. But I'm telling you, if you look on the website, the summons itself, it's a tinted window. So you have to understand, you pulled over a car for tints with no tint meter and said, well, I got to write them a summons and arrest that other guy. They pulled the guys out of the car. If the car's got tinted windows, why are you pulling out passengers unless they don't have a seatbelt? One guy was sleeping with and nobody's drunk, and they're giving you the guy gave you the license,
I don't see anything wrong. I didn't. What I just watched. I don't see anything wrong in that video.
Well, you didn't see the body cam, but you do know if you read the whole suit that Eric Adams and the clown crew knew about this within an instant. But then they modified people out of this. They modified
people out of this incident.
Yes, they just did it. So,
I gotta push back because I gave testimony. You and I discussed this on your show, and I gave testimony. I said this lacks context, and I don't care if it was tinted windows or brake light. They didn't encounter this car stop on the ground. How did they get to the ground? There was a fight that ensued. That was a resisting perpetrator with context, without context. I don't care. And we also, under the Supreme Court case, Mims, Pennsylvania versus Mims, you have the right to ask someone out of a car on any car stop at any time because you believe it's for safety purposes. So it doesn't matter if it's a brake light. At any point, Pennsylvania versus Mims gives you the right to get someone out of the car. They didn't just end up on the ground. It's missing a lot of context. I have no issues with that sergeant deploying punches. We could talk about the tactics. Maybe they could do a better job of controlling the crowd, but they had a resistant perpetrator. I have to be honest, I didn't see a problem. Unless there's something else that comes to light, I don't have any issues with. I know how strongly you feel about it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Sal, but I don't see it.
The reason the stop was made is that sergeant pulled him over and said, your windows are dark. I need your lights.
Probable cause.
Okay. That now, I've done this. I was in traffic, DWI guy. I never then said, you can't now say, I want all four of you out of the car. Because what happened is the guy had his father's stuff. Because remember, his father's retired. And he works for the probation. He works on Riker. The guy works in the probation. They all four of them have city jobs. They're not perps. So you already see, that's the thing. Again, you saw a Maybach driving through the area and said, oh, this got to have something in the car. That's what this really, if you go under that pretext, what I'm telling you, what the cops are thinking, now you start seeing why all of this ensued. Because I pulled over cars that are so dark, and all I did was take the guy's license. I ran him. If you're going to write this, but first of all, you got to have a tip meter. You can't write that summons. You also can't arrest the guy.
Yes, you can. You
don't have to have
you could write that summons based upon my training.
Okay. He didn't. There's no voided arrest. You understand? You don't have all of this stuff. You just have. We can do what we want.
You don't have to be. You don't actually have to have the tip meter. You have to be tip meter trained, and everybody knows it's retarded. The training, it's ridiculous. All you have to do is you put the tint meter on the window, and you sign a piece of paper and you're trained.
And you could estimate it.
I've been in traffic. That gets dismissed. You have to have a.
Listen, technically in New York State, every window exceeds the tint meter because it's 70. It's supposed to be 78% light transmittal, which is pretty much impossible, right? So every tint exceeds the tint meter. So just based on your observations, you could actually make that assessment. It has to be more than. I would say we're talking about when you talk about tints. Most of these cars have 10 to 15% light transmittal.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to agree to disagree, but I'm sure when they finally released this body camera footage, which Eric Adams saw himself, and they only modified the guys now, so obviously something's there. They don't just modify a couple of cops. The problem was, but there's supervisors on the scene. So you're going after the low-hanging fruit again. This guy could have said, don't do that. He didn't do that either as a supervisor. If I'm a supervisor, I go, hold on, everybody, you stand here, you stand there, and the cops tell you what's going on. Okay, do this, do that, and that's it. There's no need to bring a guy in for tinted windows. You don't even do avoided arrest. These are now issues you've given. Now you're just giving away free money and lawsuits and problems that you don't have. So it's bad supervision. But that bad supervision is going to be a lieutenant now, just so you know. Whereas this poor cop from the 9-4 is getting modified. Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I kind of see where both of you are coming, but I think I'm wondering how those cops are going to articulate asking them to step out of the vehicle. Because, I mean, we have the right to, but New York City, they're going to heavily scrutinize it. The DA's office is going to heavily scrutinize why.
That's the context that we're missing here. Is like we don't have that, guaranteed they weren't following orders. I guarantee when I see that when they were not listening. If I tell you keep your hands in front of you and one of them moves, that's context enough for me. And now the patrol guy doesn't matter anymore.
I got to push back because you don't need any justification in New York State and anywhere in the
In
country.
the NYPD, you're not allowed to order people out of the car. That's what Marlon.
Pennsylvania versus MIMS overrides that.
I understand what you're saying, but you're violating the patrol.
Where is the NYPD policy that says you can't ask people out of the car? Because it actually
read it. It's in the patrol guide. I'll give you the policy.
Please pull it up because according to Pennsylvania versus MIMS, you could pull someone out of the car at any time for safety purposes. I want to know where in the NYPD it says that I can't ask someone out of the car.
It says that in the patrol guide. I know for a fact it says that.
I gotta see that.
No, I agree with you. I agree with both of you. But here's the problem.
If I'm wrong, I'll submit to it. I just want to see.
You are. I'm telling you, you're wrong. It says that you're not allowed to just order people out of the car.
We're going to bet our beards on this. Pennsylvania versus MIMS overrides that. You even goes further.
I'm not saying that it doesn't override it. I'm saying that in our policy is that we do not do that.
Where's that policy? Marlon, you're shaking your head. Where is it?
Well, no, I wasn't even talking about the NYPD aspect of it. I was talking about the DA's office aspects of it. Because if you're pulling them out for your safety, you're pulling them out for your safety. The DA is going to be like, well, there's like 6 of you there. You know, how many cops were on scene at that time?
Well, now you're talking about something different. Now you're talking about the case of people versus the board, whether they feel they're being detained or not. That's something completely different, right? Because if 3 cops surround one person, engage them in questions, it's reason to believe that they feel that they're detained. So if I'm surrounding a car with 6 guys and I'm ordering them out of the car, now we're talking about people versus the board. Rather, if I'm more suggestive and say, hey, I need you guys to step out of the car for safety purposes if there's 3 cops there and 4 occupants. But now you guys are talking about something different. If that's what you're talking about, John, I'll agree with you. But I think that now we're getting to a different realm here. This is complete cement.
It is NYPD policy. You will not just order people out of a car on a car stop. I will get that for you. I'm 100% positive of it. I've sat through numerous trainings with it.
Me too.
I understand what you're saying, that the Supreme Court law. I'm saying the way that the NYPD operates is based upon safety. Now, if they're causing personal safety issues, now you could take them out of the car. NYPD policy is they do not want you just ordering people out of the car.
I'll prove it to you.
Even though...
but there's an NYPD patrol guide. There's an NYPD version of the Supreme Court case, Pennsylvania versus MIMS, where they actually talk about telling someone to give you the keys for the safety purposes. And I didn't see anything about not ordering them out of the car. I got to see this. I'm not saying I don't agree with you, but I want to see it.
I've been told it a million times. I've sat through trainings. I've read it. I mean, it's a lot of places. I'm shocked I'm shocked that we're all not in agreements, because that shows how poor the training is in the NYPD then. Because any tactical training you've ever done, it's even though Pennsylvania versus MIMS, it's NYPD policy that you will not do that. But whatever, that's a rabbit hole. We don't need to go down there. It is what it is. I think I'll say when I'm wrong. I know for a fact I'm right. So I will pull it up. I will find it, and that's fine. But more importantly, again, we have zero context on this video. If they're modified, again, I don't see a reason that they're modified. I don't see a reason the first kid was modified. The modification is a knee-jerk reaction to alleviate community pressure, to show that we're doing something. No reason from what I seen in this video or from what I seen in the previous video that any of them needed to be modified. From what I see is I see a resisting perpetrator who's not following orders, and deploying strikes is part of our training. I think we could all agree on that. Yes or no? Pain compliance is part of our training when someone's is not there. So that's what
But then, John, why does the guy like Shell have to modify this kid who didn't really? He's just doing his job. He's just green. And then Stephanopoulos, his boy, who literally committed a crime. Oh, he's getting overtime modified. He's full duty again. So you have 2 different rules because that guy's cronyism. He's hooked up. And the regular cops, even these 2 cops, we're going to promote his supervisor. We're going to hang the 2 cops and the other guy. So that is the policy on the job. You're my boy, so I'm going to handle you. But everyone else, that rookie, to hell with him. This guy, to hell with him, because we have no ties to him. How does this work, John? Like you always say, if discipline's not fair, what is it?
Yeah, it's discriminatory. But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. There is no standard. There's no standard of discipline. There's no standard of investigation. Joe Roscoe says, please excuse Johnny. He's a Staten Island cop. He doesn't know anything. Well, if that's the case, my friend, if Staten Island cops don't do nothing, I feel bad for all the other cops, because I'll tell you, when we go out and become supervisors and spread throughout the city, I think you learn a lot in Staten Island. I do. And you learn a lot about court cases and arresting people.
I got to push back on that. I'm not kidding. I worked in 3 different boroughs primarily. Obviously I worked in all the boroughs doing details. Some of the Staten Island cops are the best cops I've ever worked with. The one, and especially coming out of the 120 precinct and the 121 precinct. I mean, you're working in an area that's so diverse, and it's a large area. You have to know how to drive in Staten Island, right? You're flying around to different places. You find some great cops in Staten Island. I don't agree with that, not at all.
All right, let's switch gears. Last topic. We're going 2 hours, 20 minutes. We're going a little long today. Good show so far. We got to end on this because this is just ridiculous. This is just absolutely ridiculous. This is Eric. This is Eric Adams he's at a Black History Month event at Gracie Mansion. This has went viral. He's taken a lot of heat from the Black community, and rightfully so. Where he hasn't taken heat from, and he actually should take heat from, is from the Catholic Church, is from Christians. This man is comparing being indicted for a straw donor scheme and for taking bribes to him being Jesus Christ and being crucified on the cross, when Jesus said, "Please, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do," right before he died. As he was being crucified. So to me, I could care less about the words that he used. He says the word Negro. I could care less about it. It doesn't bother me. It's America. We have freedom of speech in this country. He said a lot more racist things that nobody cared about, and I particularly don't care about it either. However, let's not lose sight of the fact if this was a white elected official, if this was a white member of any city employment whatsoever, and they use the word Negro, they would be immediately be removed from office. They would immediately be told to step down. But where is the Catholic Church on any of this? Where is the Roman Catholic Church except kissing this dude's ass? And they're going to invite him to prayer breakfast and honor him with Man of the Year. Where are you? Where is the church? Listen to what this idiot has to say, because I'm so sick of hearing this dude. It's hysterical. It's funny. He's a content creative machine. I think I posted this on Twitter. I think it's almost at 5 million views already. It's at a few million views on Instagram. He is a content machine. But the pushbacks from the Black community, rightfully so. Where's the church? Listen to what this idiot has to say. Listen to him. It's absolutely disgusting.
So this is a biblical moment. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, he said, "God, forgive them, for they know not what they do." All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?
Who wants to go first?
John, can you play that again, John? Can you play it one more time? Can you play it again?
One more time. Right?
Oh my God.
One more time. Who's going first after we go? Eric,
John,
you go first.
You
go first, Eric.
So this is a biblical moment. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, he said, "God, forgive them, for they know not what they do." All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?
End my favorite part. All right, you go first. You go first, Eric. Let's go.
Oh my God. First of all, you're right. No one else. I mean, he's a character, man. Let me tell you something. He's great contact for the podcast, but anyone else would use this term, it would be viewed as racist. And if you, John, you know what's interesting? If we put out memes today, we would be referred to as racist. But yet, the memes make themselves. Eric Adams makes these memes. Look what he's saying. Now, the term Negro itself, that's a very derogatory term. Where's the term Negro come from? That comes from the 19th century during slavery times and a little bit post-slavery times. Being referred to as Negro, it's considered a derogatory term. And he says, "What are you, stupid?" That's what he's what he's saying. He's saying the Negroes are giving him oppression. He's saying those are the stupid people. You know what he's saying, Sal? He's saying what Sal Greco says all the time. The low information people, that's what he's doing. He's saying the Negroes are the stupid, low information people, and they're not listening and following his direction. This is completely inflammatory. It's racist. It's disgusting. How has he not stepped down or been forced out by Kathy Hochul? This is completely divisive. And if any black people get behind him right now, they need to see this video because this is completely insulting, not just to blacks, it's insulting to everyone. He's calling Negroes stupid. He's saying if you don't get behind him, you're stupid. Absolutely ridiculous. But he is funny.
What do you think, Sal?
Look, this guy is a human meme machine himself. You know, he's an endless amount of content. But I'll tell you, this is who Eric Adams really is. The guy that said crackers, this. What have I always said? This guy on Sundays goes to the church. He's picking on the low information people like he did here. God ordained me to be the mayor. Oh, by the way, donations in the back. The booster bags are in the back. That's who he is. And what's more disturbing here, I know what he said at the end, which is hysterical, the way he paused and then said that. That woman that's cackling in there, she's like applauding this. Like that's his base, is low information. And that's what this appeals to. You know, when I tell you he goes on those shows and he's talking about, you know, all my haters become waiters at table of success. He's feeding into the low information base. But anybody who's actually researching things and looks at this, you're laughing at this because you're seeing the huckster that he is right in front of your face. I mean, say what you want about what he said. I think it's just this guy is a content machine. But the fact is, he just showed you this is who he is. He feeds into this low information base. He's trying to drag you in. Oh, and then what he's really trying to say also is, you know, oh, feel bad for me. I'm the Messiah. You didn't know? This is a biblical moment. Like, are you kidding me? You're not a deity. This has nothing to do with biblical times. You're a criminal who committed so many crimes, and you're just getting by right now because you happen to know someone who's trying to use you for political favors. Anyone else would be, you know, going to court next month for this. So, you know, once again, though, he's going into the low information base using that hook line, and that lady cackling proves it. Because I don't know how you could cackle over something like that, other than if you're laughing. A lot of people were laughing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad we're actually closing on this because we're going full circle in how we began this episode about censorship and self-censorship, because these are things that we need to talk about right now, specifically of like, you know, like what I said last night about Althea Stevens. You know, every time these Black Democrat politicians, right, when you come on their policy failures, they revert to demagoguery, to race baiting and blaming. You know, we're going to blame racism on everything. You know, it's racism, and this is an extension of it. You know, this is a guy he's called people crackers before, and now he's called his critics crackers, and now he's calling Black folks who don't agree with him Negroes. Okay, this is just an extension of it. You know, and I'm at least glad he's finally showing his true colors, because what you're seeing here is that Black progressive Democrat politicians are elitists. Okay, they don't care about Black people. They don't care about white people. They're elitists. Okay, if you're not doing and following their orders, they get frustrated, And this is what you're seeing here with Eric Adams. Now he's frustrated at Black Democrats who aren't going along with his plan. So I'm at least glad that he's showing his true colors, but this is something that needs to be confronted, and we need to talk about it. And I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about it because then these demagogues will call them racist for pointing it out, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's absolutely ridiculous. The whole thing is insane. But I really want to know where the pushback is from the Catholics, and especially the Catholics in New York City, especially the prayer breakfast that he was inviting to when he denied so many religious rights and actually demonized us. I mean, I still can't get over, I can't get over the things I heard from this man and from the NYPD. You're not faithful. You don't believe in God. And I'm like, I still, those things sit with me, and they send chills down my body, because you could tell me what I believe. Do you understand the founding of this nation? Do you understand why America was formulated? It was formulated for religious freedom. It wasn't formulated that Eric Adams, who's the funniest guy and says the dumbest things and gets America and cons America and New York City voters into voting for him. It doesn't mean that he gets to dictate what I believe in my heart or what you believe in your heart. And he literally compared himself to Jesus Christ. And to me, it's the ultimate slap in the face. And the Black community sitting there going crazy about that he used the word Negro. He actually, in fact, did not use the word Negro. So when I was going to post it, I was going to write exactly what he wrote and exactly what he said. And the term that he said was Negro, which is a much different term than Negro, right? And I'm not going to say what that word was, because ultimately what he was going to say, because I would get deplatformed. And I would have got deplatformed then if I would have wrote what he wrote, if I would have wrote exactly how he said it. But so I just said what he said. And that's going viral. And like I said, the Black community is upset about this. But everybody should be upset by this. They should use upset by the way he speaks to the voters, by the way he talks about his critics, and the fact that this man believes himself to be Jesus Christ. He is the most incompetent mayor New York City has. He's the most corrupt mayor New York City ever has. We have a long video that I'm going to play at the end. This is an 11-minute video. This is going to be the end of the show. We're not going to come back again after that. Before we play this video, let's get final thoughts all around of what's going on. Eric, why don't you go first, bro?
First of all, thank you today for all the coffee and donuts. I know a lot of people left some coffee and donuts here. We appreciate it. It's a long show. We're doing a round table. I know we didn't announce them all, but you're not forgotten. Thank you so much for all the prayers that I've received today and in the past couple of days. Since I've went public with what's going on with my family. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And to the haters here that are saying some crazy stuff, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching the podcast. I appreciate you, Sal, Marlon, and John, and having the round table. And I love when we actually had some banter, agreeing and disagreeing. I think it's awesome. I think there's a lot of great topics today. And I think the bottom line is, Marlon, I think you wrapped this thing all up and you sealed the day today with your line. It's absolutely what's going on. They are elitist. Jessica Tish is an elitist. Eric Adams is an elitist. I think you sealed it and you wrapped up the entire show. This is about the elitist. You nailed it, Marlon. I got you, brother. Thank you.
Sal, why don't you give closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this has been a great Friday. Even like we threw a lot of ideas in, even if it sounds like we have different, looks at it. What we're doing is throwing awareness on what the police department is systemically corrupt. They can't handle discipline right. They do arbitrary things. They're going back to the 80s with the Operation Impact, all this stuff. And we need to bring awareness because New York City as a whole, you deserve better. And you need to elect people to office that'll give you something better. Obviously, Eric Adams, a constant battering ram. What can I say? He's a human content machine with the crazy stuff. This is who he is, though. And if you can, guys, later on at 12:05 on my own show, I'm going to have Peter DeMckelly on. He's from Protect Our Children NY. We're going to be discussing child trafficking. You know, his whole organization, they're trying to stop that. He's actually in partnership with the police department. You got to hear his story because he's out there a lot. So check that out at 12:05 right here on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel. Thanks for having me on here, even the haters, because remember, we need to feed those algorithms. So your appearance is merited and wanted. So thank you, even the haters. But thank you for having me. This has been great. And let's just keep going at it. We like to give our fact-based analysis. That's what this is.
Yeah. So, you know, Patrick Donahue makes a good point here. He says that Adams is a street corner hustler who went from wearing a police uniform to a very expensive suits. And if you recall, a couple of days ago, John posted a picture of Al Sharpton with Hochul. And what do you notice about Al Sharpton now? Al Sharpton wears pretty expensive suits, you know. Gone is the days of 1980s Al Sharpton and early 90s Al Sharpton wearing track suits everywhere, you know. These are all guys who now sip their you know, their fancy teas with their pinky finger up, you know. These aren't the same old guys. And this cuts to the heart of the problem that we're facing, and it's elitism, okay? And that's because, as I said earlier, society went from building stuff with our hands to being abstract. And now you have a class of wealthy academics who now have guided society into the wrong direction. And what you're seeing Jessica Tish do, is a tacit acknowledgement of that she needs masculine men who are used to putting hands on stuff, you know, and building stuff with their hands. So that's all I got to say. But I hope you guys in the chat have a good weekend. And this was a very good discussion we had today. So have a good weekend and have a good day.
Okay, guys, thanks everybody for tuning in. Sal Greco Show 12:05. It's on the Finest Unfiltered channel, so you'll see it here. We're gonna get that to go out live to everywhere. Pre-recorded episode, great episode. So yeah, we're gonna get that out at 12:05. It'll be there. We will not. Well, we'll try to be in the chat, but we're not actually gonna be on the screen. But you're still able to come in here and chat and do all that stuff. So it'll go live on every major platform. But please join us on YouTube. As well. So appreciate everybody for being on here. Great discussion. I agree with Eric. I love when we disagree because it shows a different perspective and different points of views. And so I hope you guys appreciate that. And thanks everybody for your donations to help Eric's son. If you guys please could see in the details of this episode and in all the episodes we do in the upcoming future, you will see the link for his GoFundMe. So, and again, if you guys can't afford it at this time, we completely understand it. If you could share it, or if you could say a prayer, that stuff's warranted. So we're going to end with Eric Adams. This is Eric Adams on Fox News. I think Fox News did a great job of actually taking him to task and making him stand up for his words. So here you go. Here's the illustrious Eric Adams. We'll be back at you. Finest Unfiltered. We'll be back at you Monday live 8:05. Sal Greco Show today at 12:05 Eastern time. That'll be coming up. So tune into that. You guys have a great weekend, and let me play this video for you. Where is it? It's right here. All right. Here it comes, people.
You shouldn't be talking to the president. Well, I'm the mayor of the biggest city in America. I will talk to who I want to talk to bring services to your city.
That was Robert Moses, and you are taking a live look here at our Fox 5 New York station as they are speaking live with Mayor Eric Adams.
The vast majority of migrants applied for shelter. It also became a symbol of the city's migrant crisis.
The city says the hotel is no longer needed as the number of migrants arriving has dropped dramatically. Here with more on the closing and other topics that affect all of us, Mayor Eric Adams from Gracie Mansion. Nice to have you back on Good Day, Mayor.
Great to be on, and it's, as you stated, a major milestone. It was during the time we opened the site when we were receiving 8,000 migrants and asylum seekers a week.
I know, but
8,000.
I know you're going to
2 weeks, 16,000 a month.
I know you're going to close it down, but a lot of people are also upset because you've opened up another migrant shelter for over 2,000 single men in the Bronx. And it seems like everybody from the borough president to the people who live in that community are very upset that, you know, maybe you're closing one place down, but you're moving them somewhere else.
We closed 53 shelters in a year. And if you go throughout this city and ask who's going to take a shelter, show me one who raised their hand and say, bring it here. We have to use smart policies. How do we bring people into locations where we can get the services and move them out? When you think about it, out of those 230,000 that we've had, 70% are out of our care on to their next step. Great job on the part of this administration handling the largest humanitarian crisis we've had in this city's history.
I know that we're speaking about policy, your cooperation with President Trump on the migrant crisis. He has now basically said they're going to launch a mandatory online registry of illegal immigrants with names, fingerprints, and home addresses. Would you cooperate?
Well, if the federal government, who's in charge of immigration, and that's what people need to be clear on, they are in charge of immigration. We do not collaborate based on city law in any form of deportation based just on a deportation strategy because of civil enforcement.
So are you saying this is out of your hands? Are you saying this is out of your hands?
What I'm sharing with you is that I'm allowed under city law to collaborate with any criminal enforcement, and that is what I've been calling for 2 years, and I'm happy there's an administration that heard me and they're willing to collaborate. The new order that came down, the Corporation Council will look at it and make sure we're in compliance with both federal and city law.
Okay, so there's a mayoral campaign that's about to kick off. The petition started yesterday. I want to get back to an event you had at the Gracie Mansion last night, where you spoke about Black History Month, and you said, quote, all these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God forgive them. Are you implying that if you're Black, you have to support you?
No, not at all. I'm asking for all New Yorkers to support me.
So who are you specifically talking to when you say Negroes?
Well, who has stepped down? Who has asked me to step down? If you look at that whole speech, the speech talked about the continuation of lighting your flame and continue to light and shine. And that's what we've done in this administration with our team. So those who have called for me to allow my flame to prematurely be extinguished, that's who I'm talking about.
So you're saying all New Yorkers are Negroes?
I thought I was very clear in my definition of what I said. All New Yorkers, we got 8.3 million New Yorkers, 8.3 million people didn't call for me to step down. I get just the opposite when I'm in the streets.
So anybody who's Black who calls for you to step down, they need help from God. I'm focusing on this because your use of the word Negro has come up repeatedly over the last couple of weeks. And I think some people actually have an issue with that term. So explain who you're talking to when you use that term specifically.
I didn't say they need help from God. I said, pray for them. Wasn't that what I said? You
said, quote, God forgive them.
Exactly. Let's pray for them. And so let's focus on this for a moment. Isn't our democracy is based on who the people of the city elect? Why are we trying to disrupt and take the power away from the people of the city who elected me to be the mayor? And then ask the question, what have I done that we're going to usurp that power from the people? I have not been convicted of a crime. I've moved the city forward. I've done the job that New York has asked me to do. And so when you have those that are trying to usurp the power of the voting rights of the people, that is not democracy, and God forgive them.
Okay, when you take a look at it, then you look at the polls right now. The latest poll that came out yesterday had you among Democrats at 10% support. Andrew Cuomo is not even in the race at 38% right now. When you look at the polling numbers, you can't get matching funds. What is your path forward to get reelected as mayor in your eyes?
Well, go back and look at February of 2021. I was behind Andrew Yang by double digits. People stated that he was going to be the next mayor. We're not calling the mayor Andrew Yang. We're calling the mayor Adams. This is going to be a long competitive race, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to showing how well we've done for the city and get our message out. That's what campaigning is like. No one that's running for mayor right now has ever won a mayor race but Eric Adams. I know how to win. I know how to get to New Yorkers, and that's what I'm going to do.
Are you disappointed that Congressman Richie Torres has already thrown his support behind Andrew Cuomo?
There was another Andrew in the race in 2021. He supported that Andrew as well. And so I think he has a special appeal for Andrews. You know, I hope that he understands Adams is going to be the mayor, because I'm going to show New Yorkers what we have done over the last 3 years.
Can we talk about your criminal case for a second? Because your lawyer, Alex Spiro, has submitted papers. It's making news right now. Apparently, one of the reasons why he says your case should be dismissed entirely is because of leaked letters from the prosecutor, including Danielle Sassoon's letter, where she also basically came out and said that the charges would stick, that she has more charges against you, and they were confident that they would convict you. How do you feel about what your lawyer is saying right now in Danielle Sassoon's letter?
Well, I have a great deal of confidence in my legal team. I stated from the start that I've done nothing wrong. The former President Biden stated that his Justice Department was weaponized. President Trump stated it was weaponized. I stated it was weaponized. Family members who are on FBI watch lists for doing nothing wrong, they felt it was weaponized. I think Alex has done a great job of really lifting up what our arguments have been. And the current Attorney General has been clear that these were weak at best. We knew what happened here when I stood up for New Yorkers. This was the byproduct of that. And we're going to let the justice system continue its process.
So let me ask you once again here. You have the announced resignations of 4 deputy mayors. How is City Hall functioning on a day-to-day basis?
Look at our results. They said the same thing when the indictment came down. And what happened after that? We passed City of Yes. Crime continues to decrease in the city. More jobs in the city's history continues to grow. We broke another record. It is functioning every day. We have a deep bench, and this is a city with a deep level of talent. And we're going to continue to do what we have to do. We have replacements for those 4 deputy mayors. In fact, many people reached out to say they want to be a part of the administration, and we will be announcing them in the next few days. We will continue to move forward like New Yorkers often do. That is the way we do in this city. Are you having trouble finding quality people because of everything being in the air right now? Just the opposite. I just shared with you. We have for each person, the 4 DMs that we saw resign. We have at least 2 to 3 candidates that are looking forward to it. So they're going through the vetting system. There's a system in the process when you bring people on. They're going through the vetting system, and we'll be announcing them in the next few days.
So former Deputy Randy Mastro, who was under, I believe, Giuliani, his name has been bandied about. Is he already being vetted right now?
Well, you know how we do when it's time to make an announcement or appointment. We do so. We don't do it prematurely, and we'll be rolling out. And I'm excited about the vision that the new incoming deputy mayors are going to bring.
Congestion pricing. Before you go, we have to talk about congestion pricing. Definitely less traffic in the city. But I'm hearing from business owners there's also less traffic in their stores and restaurants. What are you hearing, Mayor?
I think the data is still being processed. You know, the system is still on after the federal government made an announcement. So it's still being processed, and we make a determination is that if it's a W or L, or did we win, did we lose? Deputy Mayor Mir Joshi and her team is doing that analysis to come away with the exact data. We can turn that data over, how it's impacting the economy and how it's impacting traffic as well.
And that's one of the deputy mayors who has announced that she's resigning as well, though. So how does that data affect, or her resignation affect your data processing?
Well, when you speak to all four of them, they were clear. These are excellent public servants. They were all clear. They want a smooth transition, and they would be here to ensure we have that smooth transition. They did not walk out the door. They want a smooth transition, and we're going to do that. We've lost DMs before. We lost senior leadership before, and the transition was smooth. I'd like to remind you, someone sent me an article in the Koch administration when he lost 5 senior leaders in one day. And so these transitions happen. But again, this is a resilient city, and we will continue to move forward. The success is in the numbers, and the numbers show how successful we have been.
All right. Well, good luck tonight. You're facing off
All right.
against the other people who want your job. Are you going to
I don't
meditate?
blame them. This is the greatest job. Being the mayor of the city of New York is the greatest job you could have.
What, are you going to meditate? How are you going to stay focused tonight? They're going to try to get under your skin, Mayor.
Let's see. Everybody tries to get under my skin. That's what's called mayor.
Well, we appreciate you taking the hits this morning and joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.
Right.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.